image, so we'll see what happens. All right, so here we go. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at the direction and length of the hairs and make a little bit more sense of this. So right now it's very blocky. I mean, these are very flat lines, and you know, the eyes are just a block in, the teeth and gum are just a block in. I have some photo references to where I had a you know, like a piece of a body. I had a piece of a head, you know, a head and neck, and then I had, you know, I had just kind of pieced it together, and I kind of did my own thing with some of it. And so now, you know, if we think about the direction of the hairs, I want the white hairs going into the black. I want the black going into the white. I want the white going into the black going into the white, and then fray the edges. If I do that, then I'll have the anatomy and direction of the hairs. I also want to play down some of the shadows, which I'm going to start with some glazes to kind of turn some of the form, and that's before I add the textures. And I'm going to really make the eyes sparkle, which is kind of missing in the only reference that I have of something similar to this. So the image that I have of the head, I started with this really snarling, like you know, really hissing at somebody, right? Like, you know, this, you know, there's a figure, you know, that's, you know, almost like she has this tiger of for protection. And this is just an abstract pattern that I was just really only using the pattern to sort of just see a proportion. So one of the things that I want to do here too is that I feel like the head is maybe a little bit big for the body, and that happened because I did them in different pieces of saying, okay, the body doesn't really belong to the head and the, you know, whatever. And then I just didn't want the legs to go all the way down here. So I shortened the legs, and in doing so, that made the head big proportionate to the legs. So I'm gonna be trimming the head as I go, trying to make it a little bit smaller, especially in the jawline. I feel like the muzzle and things will be okay, just to turn it a little bit. But let's just start by playing a little bit and make some things turn more, and then, okay, I want it a little cooler than that. Jeez. So I'm gonna make the forms turn a little bit more, and I'm gonna keep this really thin. But the way I like to glaze is I like to way exaggerate, scale it back. What the heck? I think I clipped some phthalo by accident. That is a really strong blue. I don't want it that blue. But you can see in the figure that, you know, we lit her in the studio with a sharp lamplight, and so this tiger needs strong shadows too, which the reference that I'm using doesn't have strong shadows. So these are two different light sources right now. So I want to turn the form a lot more. That blue, I must have accidentally clipped some phthalo by accident. I said accident a lot, didn't I? So I keep adding warmth to that, and it's still blue. That's phthalo for you. But fortunately, it's just the glaze. I can scale it way back and do it again, and that's better. And so I'm gonna greatly increase the shadows of the reference that I have, and I'm gonna just hope that it works. I'm gonna create a dark cascading shadow. Oh, I see. My black got accidentally mixed with phthalo. That's what happened. A lot of artists don't even like black. I do, but I really didn't expect to have phthalo in there. So I'm going to turn the form, and the way I like to glaze is just really crazy exaggerations. I'm not going for the value that I ultimately want to end up at, because I'm going to wipe it back and get rid of some of the excess oils. and some of the streaks and well, all of the streaks and the excess oils. And then in this method, if I wipe back too much, then it'll be as if I did nothing. So I definitely want it to be impactful, and I want it to be very subtle, very thin paint without this excess oils and without the without this weird streaky stuff that happens when you have too much medium. And this is all by design. This is exactly what I'm going for this stage. And then I wipe it back and I reassess. And then maybe I'll glaze it again if I have to. And that's, that's par for the course. So the other thing I want to do is I'm going to half paste the tiger into the dress. The dress, you can tell, has some reflection to it, has some sheen. And I definitely want to play that up with the tiger bouncing its light into her dress, into her arm, maybe a little bit of the abdomen. So she's also going to cast a shadow. I'm going to have that all through here. And since we're receding in space and in shadow, I don't even think I'll have to model this area. And so the stripes and lighter fur, this might be enough. We'll see. And so again, just really covering ground haphazardly. I'm going for the properties by which I want to change it. I'm not going for the finished product. To have a fairly cool, not completely cool, but fairly cool shadow. And I wanted to have it low chroma, so not very colorful. So that blue, that phthalo blue, is way over the top. And I want to darken. So then I take all those properties and make it too much of everything. So too dark, too low chroma, and too warm, or too cool, I mean. And we'll see, right? We're gonna turn the hind leg. So we'll have a little sliver of light hitting the butt there. We'll turn the ankle just a tiny bit. Back of the foot, which I really have to develop more. I've got to develop all this foreground anyway. And again, I'm making up so much that it's hard to just put it all in my head. I want to see it. So I put it in really rough with the idea of not having to make value and turning decisions, not edge decisions or detail or anything, but just kind of a loose template forward. So really all my stripes are like black umber. All of my lights are mixtures of gray, white and black. There's nothing creative there. It's just simply doing design work, using the design as a spacer. And I might have gone too warm with this glaze. Maybe I'll have to cool it down. Yeah. But again, that's the purpose of what I'm doing here. So if I wanted to, I could remove this completely. I don't feel like I have to. All I'm going to do is cool it down a little bit with a second glaze of blue and a touch of that phthalo, this time on purpose. A lot less brown in there. And I'm going to cool it down. And this is such thin paint that it's not going to hinder my ability to paint on top of it at all. Not even a tiny bit. And so all of this is just preliminary work. This is where I can be carefree. I don't have to worry about a thing. I just throw it down and see what happens and react to it, change it, reglaze, wipe it off completely if I don't like it. Nothing set in stone, just having fun. Oh, you couldn't even see the hind leg, could you? All right, so I still feel like it's maybe a tiny bit warm, but as we go. So the glaze is only a first step. Yeah, that hind leg is definitely too warm. So maybe I'll remove it mostly, not completely, but enough. That way the third glaze won't mix too much, because it is going on in a kind of scrubbing manner. And this time I'm not going to wipe back. I'm just going to apply it more carefully and leave it. So now I'm going to blue this down, especially if it's facing up toward the sky. When this model posed, this is at the Schuler School of Fine Arts, there was simultaneous light sources of the lamp and the skylight. So there is touches of blue in her shadow. So I don't want to go too blue, because I want that to be the top facing parts. I just felt like it was too brown or even too green before. And so I can paint on top of this. I'm just hoping to leave it alone, which I think would be even better than putting texture notes back here. I want this to be a relatively restful area. I want it to be just hinted at, not necessarily hold up to scrutiny if you get up close to the painting, which I think is kind of cool. So if you're hacking away and you have every little detail, well, yeah, that can be cool. But I think it's even better when you're impressed from a distance and you look up and see that there's relatively little there. Like the artist got you with an illusion from a distance, and it's kind of a neat painter's effect when you get up close and realize that it's not like every hair was developed. So that's what I'm going for. All right, so glaze work, and now let's get into the painting. I'm going to get into those eyes, but I want to do some preliminary work first on the tiger. I'm going to create some grays that maybe just serve as a little bit of a foundation. And I'm not going to go into hyper detail even in the light. And that's why I want to be even less in the shadow. I just want to make sure that the pattern of fur goes in a direction that supports the volume underneath. And so that's going to be in the layering. It's going to be saying that if this volume is in front of the next, it's going to put the white fur into the black and then into the light, which is how I just started this discussion. And so I'm going to try to keep this brushwork fairly on the loose side. Might even put a tiny bit of warmth into the light, and then I want to make it feel like the fingers are being pressed into the fur. I'm going to do that with some distortion, but I'm just getting a body of paint down so that when I put the black fur on top of it, it's going to have a layer of paint down. And so again, I'm going to go into these edges. Some of the black stripes aren't big enough. I think that was because of the way I was blocking it in. I was really just kind of mapping a design, not necessarily saying, well, this is the exact, fur. This is just the, if I can get all these spacings pretty close, then it's going to be easy to problem solve. Wherever the pattern doesn't work, that little jigsaw puzzle of values is going to suggest to me, you can pull this in here, or you can make it bigger there. And it's all because, if it fits, that's good. And if it doesn't, that's a problem solved. So either way, I win. And it doesn't have to be right. It's just simply using this intricate design as a way of finding accuracy. Pretty cheaply at that. I don't have to measure every little thing. I just have to keep trying shapes until they work. So there's some definite features that I'm going to put a lot of effort into, and that's going to be the eyes and nose. I'm going to get this texture idea of the fur, and then I'm just going to keep looking at it in this mirror that's behind me. I can't really get very far back in my studio. I'm kind of stuck in a corner, especially boxed in by all these cameras. So what I'm going to do instead is I've got a mirror behind me, and that's going to tell me what it looks like from a distance, but it also is going to give me the reverse. And that reverse is really nice. That tells me if there's symmetry issues, like if the skull is off. It's going to tell me if there's just something I wasn't seeing when I'm looking at it the right way. And so the mirror is a really excellent tool, and I've got a big one behind me, and that I could just turn over my shoulder and look back, and what it'll do is it's going to flip everything horizontally. And that's just going to be a really great way of seeing it in a different way and from a distance. So that's going to be my quick check. So right now, again, I really roughed this pattern in, mostly just for proportions, not for any sort of finality to it. And now I'm just creating some light and shadow with some glazes. And then I'm going to create pattern. I'm going to really buff those eyes to make them sparkly, even though in the image that I have, they're really kind of dull. But I'm gonna do some artistic license in there. All my creative decisions at this point are really going to be to make sure that if the proportions changed at all, they're going to be to cut rather than add. I don't want to add. I want this head to get slightly smaller, not bigger. So when you can step back from your work and assess that, that is excellent, because there are really a couple ways of figuring out a painting. Well, I mean, there's more than two, but the major ones are either you're going to measure everything or even trace, or you're going to put down some ideas and react to them. I am more of a reactor and problem solver than a measurer. I like to put in very simple design work, guesses that have gotten better over time because I've built experience, I've trained my eye. I don't have to measure very much. I just have to be able to put in like an abstract pattern of what I see, of what I assess the masses to be, and then find that sort of abstract pattern that fits together in just the right way, and then make it work with light and shadow. And then however I might have envisioned a style, and I might not have. I might just be looking for inspiration in the painting as it goes. But either way, I have that creative freedom to change my mind as I look at the painting and see what it says. All paintings kind of speak to you. You put in something, then it's going to tell you, okay, this area is looking better than I even imagined that I would even think about, or this style or this series of brushwork. And you can look at it and be like, whoa, okay, that's not what I expected. I like it. I'm going to preserve that or even enhance it and react the rest of the painting around it, and see what happens. The other thing I'm going to do while I'm developing this is I'm going to take small breaks from the tiger itself and put a little bit of light, this white gray light into her hip and into her abdomen and arm. I'm going to work on the rocks on the foreground. And let's back up a little bit on the camera. Liz, how much of the camera is showing? Is it mostly just focused on the tiger head, or is it seeing some of the body? Like if I'm pointing.
I'm seeing some of the body, but I'm not seeing her whole face, which is okay.
Well, I haven't really worked on her face. The face was done from life. I'm going to preserve that. If I do anything to it, there's just a little tweak in the jawline I want to do. But I worked on that from the model from life. Huh?
Okay. I see the tiger, most of the tiger, and I I see her body. And I can see your brush strokes.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's looking okay? Like the camera work and the...
It is.
I mean, hopefully the painting too.
Yeah.
But
it is.
Yeah, so you can see that as I'm making these decisions, I'm cutting rather than adding, making a smaller jaw, smaller chin, and it's not like I have to preserve that glaze that I put down. I can just paint right over that really easily. Also, too, is, it can just be a guideline. It doesn't, you glaze it and that area has to be done. It's thin paint. If it put me in a better context of values, it already did its job. It doesn't have to do more than that. If I have to paint opaquely over everything, so be it. And I can even use it this way too, is where I've let the brush run out of paint, and now I'm letting it mix with the glaze, even though that glaze is really thin. And it's influencing the brush. So even if this glaze got a little greener than I'd hoped, I lived with it anyway, knowing that I was going to do just this, as I was going to cut in with grayer paint, and it's going to mix with the glaze just a little bit. It's going to cool it down. It's going to brighten it ever so slightly. It's going to take a little bit of that brown out of it. And if I have to put it back in, fine, right? I'll do it with a cooler color and really sell the idea that this tiger is in a shadow similar to, or this shadow of the neck is similar to the intensity, direction, and color of the light that's hitting the model, which is really tricky, right? You're going to take your photo references and try to create some harmony. When I was envisioning the landscape part, I wanted to go with something kind of moody, like gray and almost like stormy. I already had her in a background that was gray, just from the model session where I had the model against a like dark gray backdrop, and I was going to use that for this kind of stormy sky, but it didn't make any sense because she has sharp shadows. So that would be inharmonious to say that she's in this kind of stormy, overcast day and yet still has sharp shadows. It's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So I changed my mind on that. I created a sunny day, kind of out of my head. There's a lot of warmth in the sky, so I guess it's late in the day, which makes sense for the direction of the shadows. And since my reference for the lion, or lion, what a terrible looking lion. Since my reference for the tiger is in kind of an overcast sky, I've got to make the conversion to make them feel like the figure, the landscape, and the tiger are all in the same scene, receiving the same light. And so some of that is just a little bit experimentation. Some of that's a little bit of problem solving. Some of it's going right by design. And there's always going to be that combination when you're making things up. It's like, sure, I could do a lot of Photoshop work and create references that I have already wrangled all these bits of information together. I kind of like the discovery process of working it out on canvas. Sure, it'd be safer to work it in the reference, but working it right here on the canvas, I think that's kind of thrilling. Probably not great for beginners who might struggle to create that story of the light from the reference, right? Every realistic painting is a story of the light. We're putting a consistent color, intensity, color, and direction to the light source throughout the whole piece. And if you're lighting your subject matter well, it'll be right there. You just have to copy it. But that's hard enough. To make it up, you have to really see things, either luck out and get references that do have the same lighting as, say, like the model here, or you envision how these forms are going to be hit by the same light source, even though that's not what you're observing. So that's what I'm kind of up against right now. which comes with it just a little bit of experimentation. I put some forms down. I say, okay, is this in the same color, direction, and intensity of the light, or is it feeling inharmonious? And a lot of times you just want to see it first before you make your mind up on that. So it's a little rough right now, and that's fine. In fact, when I roughed this in, I was thinking it was just kind of really cursory and really rough. And then when I stepped back, it came together, much more than I thought it would. And that was just kind of happy accident. Again, I didn't have very high intentions for these stripes, other than it's a design that helps me space things. If this pattern fits from here to here, I'm usually in pretty good shape. And then when I add a next thing, I can look over at a horizontal plumb line. Do these stripes line up to those ones? I can look at a vertical plumb line. Does this line up with that? And that's its only job in the beginning. And so that's where I am right now. I'm just kind of piecing it together, trying to figure out what I want in my painting. I'm letting the painting speak to me a little bit. And hopefully by the end, I not only get something that's somewhat believable with accuracy, but something that's artistic. It's got a lot of intention to it. Something that is beyond just simply copying photographs, but creating the painting that I want. Eyeball, next challenge, eye patch. I have to wear an eye patch? Hopefully not 2 eye patches. Would you say the beginners could learn more by working things out on canvas instead of doing prep work in Photoshop? No, it's easier to do it in Photoshop and copy what you see. Much easier. A pixelation on YouTube. This is a 1080p camera. It's got to be a settings issue. But yeah, it's a little washed out. It could be that I have the light source cranked. Here. Let's turn the light source down and see what happens. I tried to get the cameras closer this time. No, that didn't help at all. Liz, I moved the camera. If that's still okay, just let me know.
Yeah, you're working on the Tiger right now. So
Yeah, I'm working on the Tiger. Yeah, the camera quality seems pretty low on YouTube, and I don't understand why. It's a 1080p camera. Let's see if it's in the settings.
Bandwidth, maybe.
Well, I have had trouble with internet all day. It could be a bandwidth issue. Yeah, but I might spend too long trying to figure that out. So I don't know if that's a good idea. Maybe if I make it turn more. No, that's still not great. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it. Thanks for bringing it to my attention. It could be the internet speed. I've had trouble with internet all day. All right, so moving forward, what I want to figure out now is the directional brushwork. I haven't really done any directional brushwork. I've been only working on masses so far, and reconciling the difference between my photo and the light source of the figure. The light source of the landscape is subtle. It's merely just, this is definitely not about the landscape. So I'll have to turn the camera so you can see that, because I'm a little close in right now. But what I'm going to do now is just get some brighter patches near this eye and in this sort of, I don't know, I guess it's going to be like a 10 o'clock direction, 11, not terribly high in the sky, but yeah, good angle to it, and fairly bright. All right, so now here we go. I'm going to go ahead and make the pattern a little more substantial, and then I'm going to feather the pattern of light into the edges of the dark and the the dark into the light depending on the direction of the anatomy. So the anatomy is going to make the hairs go different directions. It's going to make it support the volume of the tiger if those layers of the fur go the right direction. So right now, I'm just going to reinforce some of this. I'm going to go a little thicker with some of the pattern, but what I don't want to do is expand the head at all, because I feel like after the block in, when I stood back from the work, which is a key, when I from the work, it suggested to me that the head was just a little bit too big. I said, okay, mental note. And when I refine it on the next sitting, I'm going to make the head smaller. So there was no reason to panic. It was no reason to paint until 2 in the morning. It was just just a simple pattern that helped me get my proportions 70%. It's more like a gesture drawing than it is like purposely trying to make an accurate pattern of tiger stripes. Now, if you're an expert at tiger stripes, you can make them up. I'm not, so I didn't. I copied these loosely verbatim, and this pattern is getting more accurate the more I add to it, because a lot of the pattern was put in on the skinny version of the stripes. And I do that in figure drawing too. If I get like a thin noodle of an arm, then I can add like the bicep, and I can add the triceps, and I can add brachialis. I can add the knobs of the humerus on the epicondyles. I can add all that stuff to the outer edge to make it go from just kind of a placeholder of shapes to something more accurate. So all this is by design. And hopefully, as I add more forms, it's going to get more accurate. And my goal for this was just to take a figure painting from the studio and do something with it. And I want to leave it a little bit on the sort of alla prima figure sort of look. I don't want to refine. I don't want this to be ultra refined. I don't want it to necessarily be beholden to the photo and have to have everything exactly right. I want some brushwork. I like the idea that I had to make up the landscape out of my head. I didn't use any references for that. And so this is a really creative endeavor, even if it's at the expense of some of the accuracy. I'm less concerned about the accuracy and more concerned about something believable and artistic. And so those are my goals for this painting. And we'll see if I can pull it off in the next, couple hours. But again, the threshold isn't to get every stripe exactly right, or to do hyper detail and get like every fur stroke in there. Those are not my goals. My goals are a lot different than that. So full disclosure, that's my stated goal. I might actually lighten up some of these stripes as I go. And I am letting the brush mix with some of the white just a little bit. But I haven't done any of the layering that I want to do. Once I get the pattern in a little bit bolder, again, I'm going to take a little break from the face. I'm going to work on the dress of just how the tiger will be interacting with the dress. Maybe even more so than it would in real life. But again, this is an artistic endeavor. It's not, I'm the boss of this painting, not the photo. And again, it's just a matter of trying stuff and then stepping back, looking in the mirror at the painting. I'm not Andy. I'm not my brother who would use the mirror to stare at himself. But the mirror will tell me how it's looking from a distance, and it'll give me that extra little insight as if we reverse the image horizontally, and I get to see it in a whole new way. which is just great for especially symmetry, feeling like there's one consistent skull in here. Kitty skull. Are you on Wi-Fi? I should be on Wi-Fi, yes. Which I've been having trouble. I've been having a lot of trouble with internet. You know, it could be the light too. This light is pretty close to the subject. So let me finish this little pattern work, and then I need to step back from the book anyway. So then what I'll do is maybe create a better angle for the light relative to the painting. It might be washing out the painting. So right now, this process is pretty, as haphazardly as I threw in this pattern, it's actually serving me pretty well. These were good guesses. And I mean, that might seem like a brag or something. It's really not. It's just more of a, well, that's a pleasant surprise, right? I have gotten better at guessing over time. And my method of painting is a lot of guessing, and it's educated guesses based on just years and years of experience of estimating shapes and having to correct them, and just getting better at training my eye and my ability to see abstract pattern instead of like, you know, this myriad of nuance and subtlety and things like that. Like I think there's just a simple pattern that I see when I squint, and I like to be faithful, like a little truthful to that. Truthful. Is that how it came out? All right, so again, I'm bringing this head in a little, making it smaller as I refine the pattern. And the glaze that I thought I might have to adjust is now looking a lot better. I think it's just because now that the pattern of stripes is getting darker and richer, it's getting lighter looking, and it's just feeling like a little bit more at home with the monstrous kitty. How's the video quality on the iPhone, on Zoom, Liz?
It looks pretty good.
I mean, when I'm looking at my screen on Zoom, I see exactly what Sandra's talking about. Looks pretty bad.
You mean on Zoom or on YouTube?
On YouTube, it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, on Zoom, it looks good to me. And on my screen, it looks great. And I'm also watching it through a projector.
You're watching it through a projector?
And I can see it on my screen.
What's seeing it on a projector mean?
It just means that I could see it like on a big screen.
Oh, okay. So you're like AirDrop, not AirDrop, AirPlaying, like AirPlay.
I don't know if that's what it is. It's just that I have a projector hooked up to it.
Like projecting it onto a wall from your phone?
Yeah. No, from my computer.
Okay.
From my laptop.
I see. Kind of.
Yeah, it's really it's just really easy. And I watch everything through the projector most of the time.
Really?
Yeah, like movies and stuff like that. Videos, that you recommend to watch. All of that stuff.
Oh, what have I recommended to watch?
You've recommended a lot of stuff.
I have?
Yeah.
Oh, like the Simon Shamo documentaries?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the one that came. Those are neat. Did you watch them?
Guy. Yeah, I watched them.
And
also the other guy, Vandergool or whatever his name is.
Janacek, Vladimir Janacek.
Yeah, him.
He's hilarious. Right. I like that guy a lot. We ought to play those things on the lunch breaks at the Schuler School.
We should.
because it's educational, but it's also entertaining.
I know. I
That
agree.
that guy's hilarious. I like the Simon Shamma videos aren't very funny, but they're very dramatic and I think well done. Did you ever watch the Great Courses with William Kloss?
I don't know if I have.
I don't know if you could watch that for free. You might be able to. I mean, with YouTube, you never know. But William Kloss is a historian, art historian with the Great Courses, and man, he that guy can speak. It's really good. You can tell he's just really passionate about what he's talking about, and that passion kind of runs out a little bit when it's the abstract, like the expressionist. He's really passionate about like the old masters.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, again, anybody can like what they like. No judgment here. I like what I like, but the way he speaks is just like really, I don't know, knowledge plus like you can see like the sort of force behind what he's saying by the enthusiasm.
I'll look him up.
Kloss.
Oh, I had it all wrong. Kloss.
How'd you have it?
I had Klauss.
Klaus.
Yeah, so it was wrong.
No, that's fine.
Oss. So, and the other guy, how do you spell his name?
Janacek? Good luck.
Well, no, him I know. The other guy.
Shama?
Yeah, Shama.
I think it's Schama.
Schama. Okay. And I know I have seen some.
Oh, you know what? I don't think there's a C. I think it's Shama.
Shama.
I'm hearing rumblings. I sure hope it's the cat. If it's my kids, then I gotta run up.
Why don't you go check?
Yeah, I might have to. Be good to see this coming back in from a fresh eye anyway, but
yeah,
it makes for terrible watching. The person painting disappeared. Yeah, I heard like heavy footsteps.
Yeah, well, I would check that out.
Could be the cat.
Heavy footsteps on a cat?
Well, you never know if he jumped off a table or something.
Okay.
Yeah, I should probably be more concerned.
I'm not
it was a battle getting, I mean, it was a fun battle because he's a funny kid, but getting Ollie to sleep, like I was right up against 9 o'clock. I was totally unprepared for this. Like I had good plans. I was going to be, palette set up, images ready to go, do the proper things on YouTube, do the necessary problem solving that YouTube always makes me do because the first try usually doesn't work. Nope. It was like 8:50. I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get ready?
And there you were.
And there I am. All right, so now these patterns are really dark. I think it is an excellent time to get back from the work. And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to work a little bit on the dress. Then I'm going to do this pattern work. The head got a tiny bit smaller, and that's all it really needed. But it wasn't really like the head was monstrous or anything. It was just that you're going to be doing problem solving. If you know that the problem solve is in the direction of shrinking the head rather than growing the head, you can be conscious of it to go the right way instead of the wrong way. And so it sounds like a no duh thing to do, but I mean, I can tell you from my own work that it's easy to get mindless while you're problem solving. Like, you could be working on just the head and now you're working on the eyes and now you're working on the nose and now you're, working on the cheek and the ear and stuff. All of a sudden you've got this gigantic head. It's so easy to do. But if you know ahead of time that all of your decisions are going to be to shrink the head rather than grow the head, it might not happen. I mean, there's still a chance, but you have a better chance of going in the right creative direction. And some of these things like that, I've never heard another art teacher say. Not that it's like a bragging thing. It's just, it's one of those things that have burned me so many times that it was one of those, like, you learn by doing kind of thing. It's like, I've had many paintings where like the head grew and the body didn't. And all of a sudden you've got this like shrunken body relative to the head, or even the opposite. The head, the body grew as you developed the rest of the drawing, and now all of a sudden the head looks tiny. And if you know the creative direction to go in, you can at least be conscious of how you're going to manipulate this, like from start to finish. So I know the creative direction that I'm going with this tiger is to shrink the head, and that's going to hopefully stop me from making all my problem solves to make the head bigger. So I hope that makes sense. I don't know if it necessarily does, but anyway, I'm going to see if my kid is awake. And hopefully this will only take 2 seconds. And then I'm going to see if I can solve that lighting issue on the your cats sound like horses. Those are some big cats. Do you have a tiger in your home? Yeah. All right. So right back. All right, let's see if this helps YouTube. I'm back. It was probably a cat.
Okay.
How's that?
For who?
Just straight.
I was like, what?
Okay. You're right. It's a little better.
That looks great on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm looking at YouTube. I can't actually see the screen on YouTube on Zoom, but I feel like the quality of my iPhone is a lot better than the quality on the little webcam. There's the iPhone.
Oh, that looks good.
You can see.
Yeah.
The other issue is me painting around this thing. So we'll just do the best I can. But like I said, I needed a break from the head anyway, from that tiger head. And so right now I want to experiment a little bit with some reflected light. Get a nice clean brush, and I'm going to get a little off-white and put tiger into her hip. And it's going to be the same like that glaze. That glaze was way over the top. I'm doing the same thing here, dude. This is way brighter than I want to go. I don't need to reflect very much in the leg because that's there. And then, yeah, I might just say this wrinkle and this wrinkle are facing Kitty more than the other side. So again, this is not where I want to end up. This is the first round of putting in, wiping off, and then seeing what it looks like. And nothing is meant to be right yet. It's all just an experimentation. Too bright, too cool, and very streaky, very oily. and we'll see what happens when I wipe it off. Oh, yeah, you can't even see it. So, yeah, I put it, gosh, that's a lot more contrast than in real life. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm going to wipe this off and reassess. I might have to reestablish the outline.
I like that reflection on her arm, what you're just wiping off.
Well, I like it when it first starts, and then it's got to fade a little bit. So I'm going to do something like that. Maybe a little bit more. I'll put a tiny bit of it back. But again, none of that was meant to be the finished product. That was just meant to be a kind of what if. And so now I feel like some of this should come back. Oh, there's Sam. I think my kid did get out. I think it was probably Hans going to the bathroom or something. I think you talk about like the sound of horses. I mean, that kid stomps through the house. So it must have been him. It definitely wasn't Ollie, because if Ollie woke up, he'd be going looking for people. All right, so I'm going to put some of this back. And then maybe re-outline with purple. It just depends on how much sheen the dress has. Right now, this doesn't work because I don't want the I don't want the reflection of the tiger to be brighter than the highlights. And so that's the only like limiting factor here. Now the tiger is bright and very close to the hip, so that can be quite bright. And when I put this in, maybe I don't want to wipe off with the rag. Maybe I would rather just blend it with the brush. That looks better. So yeah, 5th time's a charm. You know how the saying goes. And now I'm going to mix a purple, get my maul stick, and reassert some of these darks. This won't face the tiger at all. It might face the sky a little bit. So there are notes in this figure of the skylight interacting with that lamp. And so that's already kind of in the painting. There. Now the dress is still turning away from the tiger on just a very sliver of an edge. It's going to be dark when it faces up and away from the tiger. And now I'll just blend this edge just ever so slightly. The dress, when I blocked in the tiger, again, I was building a Franken tiger. It was really just a mixture of like 3 different images. One of them was a cartoon. Not a cartoon, but like a drawing. And it looked really awkward. Really awkward. And so as I was kind of reconfiguring Tiger, finding different images and building Tiger out of almost no knowledge of tiger anatomy, yeah, I lost a little bit of the dress. And that's fine. I'm just going to redraw it in some areas like here. It'd be really nice to have her as a really crisp edge in front of the tiger anyway. So fix it in the moment. Just had to just keep the idea in mind that I'm going to have to redraw this edge. No big deal. Really helpful to get back from this painting because you know what? I'm gonna put some of that back in. Really helpful to see it like with a fresh eye. So this is going to be a different style of glazing. My typical style is to way overdo it and then wipe it back. This is going to be to establish it at the level that I want by carefully applying it. You can see how much more fun it is to just slap it on there and remove it probably the funnest I have with painting. It's just glazing. There's no risk. It's all fun. I don't have to be careful. Just slap it in there. Way over exaggerate. And now here, I just don't want streaks because this is hairs on a stick. This brush is hairs on a stick, and it's going to create streaks if it has a lot of oil in it. And I don't want that. So I want to move in counter directions. I want to kind of scrub it on, a lot less medium. And I'm going to allow this tiger to influence the dress. I like that. I don't like this. So this is facing down toward the tiger. It's really far away, so it ought to be pretty weak. Better. And now I really wish that this purple were super rich. Now that it's not facing the tiger, not picking up all that gray light. So that'll give it a nice little reestablishment, really like nice punch of value. Again, all that's just in my head. I'm just trying to think my way through it, react to the painting in front of me. And I'm sure there's a lot more problem solves to do on the dress, but for right now, I'm just more concerned about what the tiger would be doing to the dress. And more importantly, just taking a mental break from this area that I've been focusing on, just to kind of come back with a fresh eye, fresh mind. And now I can come back and go back and create these little textures, finish the pattern work. Oh, hey, Malika. How are you?
Hi, Malika.
She's on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure out the camera quality. I don't really know what to do about it. Normally it's better than this.
Much better on Zoom.
Well, yeah, like I said, I can't really see Zoom right now. But that's typically the case that the iPhone does better job than the webcam. Maybe that's normal because iPhones have gotten really good with their cameras, and I'm sure like Samsung and everything like that is the same way. But this is a 1080p camera. It should be pretty high quality. So it might be recording in a lower standard, and I just don't know how to find how to adjust it. And so
which version of the iPhone do you have now?
12 Max, 12 Pro Max.
I think that's what I have. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's not the most recent, but it's still got a great camera for considering, what it used to be. Like, even a decent DSLR couldn't hold a flame to, the modern DSLRs especially, but even the, modern iPhones.
Right.
And I'm sure that all the other like Samsung and everything, I'm sure they have great quality cameras too. Probably maybe even better. I don't really know. So this head is getting to be a better size, and it's still a little rough, and that's okay because it won't be as rough when I start feathering the textures on there. So all this has been kind of pulling together this roughen of the pattern, making decisions, again, with that mindset that I'm going to be reducing the head rather than adding, because it's really one or the other. It's, it's not accurate enough. And is it going to be additions that make it more accurate, or is it going to be a series of cuts? I'm doing this with a series of cuts. Want an imposing looking kitty. I want Monica to feel like she has nothing to worry about. She's got this monster cat protecting her. And to tell Karen that I finally did it. I put a tiger in one of the figure paintings. Reward it. Reward a nice running gag. Cutting the ear is going to make the head substantially smaller, which is going to be really great. All right, so the ear is going to get cut by a decent amount, which will require me to color match the background, and I'm not ready to do that. So I'm going to leave the ear artificially big for right now. And I'm going to, it's just like a lot of things. I'm going to put a pin in it. I'm just going to keep it in my head that eventually I'm going to change it. So what I want to do now is I have a couple options. I can either, with a small brush, add a ton of little fur textures, or I can do what I did with the ostrich and even with the lion. I can find a nice gnarly looking brush and let the random nature of the hairs create the feeling of texture. And let me just find the right brush. Okay, I can see it just fine. Looks awesome. Okay, thanks. Yeah, on my screen, it looks a little washed out. And yeah, Karen's biggest dream. Sandra, we have a student at the art school that when I'm doing these figure drawings, I invariably will say is like, oh, I don't want to put in the model blocks that the model's sitting on. What am I going to do with this one? And it just got to be like 10 times in a row. She said, add a tiger, just kind of jokingly. And it's like, you know, and it just got to be such a good running gag that every time I'd say, what am I going to put this model on? How about a tiger? So now I feel like I have to put a tiger in. So the title of this painting is going to be Karen's Tiger. And nobody in the show except for you all will know what that means.
Sounds great. It's going to be in the June show, right?
Yeah, and I found out today that I found a frame that's this size, and this is not a regular size. This is a 24-32.
Wow.
That's not a ready-made size. That's not normal.
And it's meant to be.
It's meant to be. Karen's Tiger. Yep. And especially before she goes off to England.
I know.
She'll get one last Schuler victory. She got her running gag into the art show.
Yep.
I don't know. I think this is kind of thrilling. It's not going to be one of my best paintings because, again, I'm making up so much. It's thrilling for me, though, because I like the idea that I get to create. I'm not just copying the things that I see, but I'm making things happen. And that's a lot of fun for me. It's a lot riskier than just verbatim copying a student to work it on Photoshop, kind of try something and then problem solve. It's a lot easier to do. Like if you can work it out on Photoshop for all the decisions you're gonna make, put this tiger in the scene with a figure in a landscape, change the lighting, all that stuff, so much easier. So much easier. Like not even in the same ballpark. So now I'm modeling the edge of white into the black. I'm going to use a ton of oil for this so that I can just kind of flick it over the edge. And if I lose it, I'll just reestablish it. It's okay. There, I lost it just a little. In fact, I think I'm going to have to get more black on my palette. And then I really want to work up the nose and the mouth and the eyes. Probably not in that order, probably the eyes first. They are behind the rest of the painting right now, and those are very special moments. But right now I wanted to focus on the textures, but I will need a break from it. Like I said, if I keep hacking away at any one spot for too long, I'm going to get eye fatigue. I'm not going to be considering how this works as a whole. I'm only going to be looking at small parts. So I definitely want to stop and work on something else. I think that something else is going to be the eyes first, and then the nose and mouth, but maybe not as one block. Like I'll do the eyes and then get back to the pattern, and then do the nose, get back to the pattern. It's not like any of those areas have to be completely done either, but give it a shot. And if it happens, great. If it doesn't, then I take another break later and get back to it, or even take a break from the painting and do it on another sitting. The sky's the limit. It's nothing is so rigid that I can't adapt. But I'm going to get a sparkle in the eye. I'm going to get a nice glow of refraction into the eye. I'm going to get some red into the nostrils and some pinks into the nose. I'm going to get the teeth and gums worked out. All that's going to happen. But first things first, I'm going to just rough the edge of the black with the white, and then the white with the black, in the direction of the hair. If they're moving. In my image, I can't really tell, but I can kind of assert what I think is happening with the direction of the hairs. My image isn't very good. I need something more precise than what I was using. Yeah, my image isn't very good. This painting is going to be very inventive. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Pop off the canvas. Nice. No, I'm not saying it's looking bad. I'm just saying that it's much safer to just copy what you see. In fact, instead of building a tiger out of 3 different references when you're no expert on tigers, building a landscape out of your head, a model with only 2 sittings from life, and reinventing the lighting on the tiger completely, because it's like in an overcast and I'm putting it in sunshine. What I should have done, and maybe I should still do it, is I did a redraw to make it accurate to the size and proportion of the black stripes. But what I should have done is made them a tiny bit too big. That would have been a really good strategy. If I made them a tiny bit too big, then dragging this white into the edges would reduce them down to the perfect size. But I'm going to keep going. And the reason is because what if they get a tiny bit small? Then it might help enforce the idea that I want to shrink the head. So I'm going to put a pin in that. But generally speaking, if you can strategize to say that I'm going to be cutting into these edges, so I better make them a tiny bit too big, that is a really good strategy. And those are tricks that definitely wouldn't occur to a beginner. It's hard to concentrate on actually what you're seeing, and then it's really hard to accurately assess the light, and then it's actually make things up in an accurate way. Yeah, not accurate, but believable. And then to just think about these strategies, like, well, if I layer this, then that. If I make the stripes too big and then cut them with the edges of the white, then that would be better. The other thing that's going to happen is you'll notice that I'm only working one side of the stripes. That's because I'm going to be dragging the black into the white. So it's very possible too that they won't end up getting too small. And then what's too small anyway? I mean, are there going to be any tiger experts saying that, well, I know tigers, and this tiger's stripes would have been slightly bigger and this exact pattern? I mean, I highly doubt it. But it's just like any kind of horse expert. You know, the horse experts come out of the woodwork. Like they might not even go to an art show unless they like get the wind that tells them there's going to be a horse in this art show, and I'm going to tell them how wrong it is. You know, you just say, hey, really great observation. So glad you know your horses so well. You know, you might not sell it to them, but you know, it's always great to get feedback. So I'm trying not to insult them at the same time, but you know, people are really particular about their horses, for sure. And I'm not, you know, I don't fault them for that. I'm just saying, it's like from the artist standpoint, yeah, sure, you want to be accurate, but you know, there's the difference between trying to do a painting and trying to get like every buckle and strap and muscle like 100% right. You know, it depends. Is it a commission? Then yeah, do that. But if it's, you know, if it's not, you know, again, appreciate it. You know, you just say, okay, thank you so much for telling me. You consider it for the next painting, or even modify the painting you've got. But you're almost always going to hear about it. Of course, I've found. I did a painting of a guy with a motorcycle once that I thought for sure I better get every sparkle, every turn of chrome, every wrapping of the leather around the handle exactly right. And I spent forever on this motorcycle. And then he says, well, the likeness of the figure under these huge sunglasses wasn't him. And it was like, what? His head was the size of like a dime. It's like, so I guess it goes to any painting. You could hardly even see his face. It was like half covered with sunglasses. Okay, so I need to retract again, just saying that like I was really happy to have that commission. I'm glad it was finally approved. Yeah, those people. Oh yeah, people are really particular about their horses. You know, they're really passionate about them. I definitely don't want to come off as insulting. It's just a subject that you're not going to get away with much. Let's put it there. All right, so now these are getting less hard-edged. But again, this is only part one of the equation. The second part is going to be the black. So the black is going to go into the white. So anything that's flowing this way, the black is going to be over the white. Anything going this way, the white is going to be over the black. And so I'm just kind of really just creating soft edges, but with a plan of the direction of the fur and the anatomy. And brightening up at the same time. So there's like a triple threat going on here. This is I was explaining to my students today, is saying that you know, what you might be inclined to call a mistake is really just kind of a set of information that, you know, you can make the next adjustment to what you have, make it more dramatic, more accurate, more colorful, more expressive. And so I'm really not very inclined to call anything a mistake early on. It could just be one step away from being something that was even better than if you'd struggled to make it exactly like the photo anyway. So there's other ways of doing this. I could take like a fan brush and drag it. I like to do my edges with paint, not by smashing things. And so let's switch gears. I need to get more black on my palette and step back anyway. By the time I get here, I want longer hairs. No, this is pretty tight fur near the head. In fact, the roughness almost suggests like a cub and not a full-grown tiger. But this thing is huge relative to Monica, at least. I'm okay with that. So I'm dragging longer hairs into the black, and then I'm going to extend the black into the white. I'm probably going to use the atmosphere to trim the cheek just a tiny, tiny bit, because that is a pretty good proportion to the black stripe. But I'm glad he's shrinking just a little, or her, or whatever. I don't know my tigers all that well, but I'm glad the tiger's shrinking a little bit relatively to the body. Again, really rough brush, really kind of nomadic points to the brush hairs. And I could have either, really cleaned these hairs and trained the hairs to be pointy and perfect. But I kind of like to have a gnarly brush around. Richard Schmid did this perfection. That's why, if you hear me rail against like the confusion as to why he was endorsing rosemary brushes, he used some of the nastiest brushes you could ever see to make these random edges, and they were just perfect in the Schmid way. Like you just slap a brushstroke down and it'd just be this coolest thing. But he used just the shittiest brushes, pardon my French. And I mean, he even described them that way because they were like this. They were just kind of like splaying in every direction. And he used it so masterfully that it's like, okay, I better start holding on to some of these. The edge of the hair, the edge of the ear is going to really be like here. It's not going to go nearly as far as it's going. I'm going to trim all that with some tree. I like that he's getting kind of youthful. It's neat. Okay, happy accident. It's all because I'm making this hair maybe just a little bit more animate than I probably should if it was a adult tiger. But again, sometimes the painting speaks to you. It's not doing exactly what I was telling it to do, and it looks better. All right, black hairs. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I need to get some more black on my palette. I'm okay that this brush isn't completely clean, so it might gray some of the black, and that's fine. As long as it doesn't do it too much. When the black is in the light, it ought to look a little different than if the black is in the shadow. So I'm hoping that's going to happen. I'm not banking on it because it'll be kind of random. But if it happens and it happens to go well, I'm going to take credit for it. And if it doesn't, I'm going to blame it on the painting. All right, maybe that's not the right way to do it. But still, there's a randomness to every painting. I'd say, unless you really plan well and you do a lot of preliminary studies and stuff like that, you just got to look to see what actually happens rather than, getting disappointed if it doesn't go exactly the way you drew it up in your head. Happy accidents. So I'm not painting sloppy, hoping for a happy accident. I have a plan, but I also have my eyes open to see what happens. There's a big difference. Like I know a lot of people that just say, oh, we'll see, they're just flying away, and it's not with any sort of rhyme or reason to it. They don't have a goal to get to. They're just hoping for the best. I think that's a terrible strategy. So on this painting, I don't have a reference for the landscape. I mean, I could have found one, but I thought that'd be fun to make it up. But I had a plan. I wanted the light to be like what's hitting the model. And I wanted the I wanted there to be just a little bit of kind of an obvious way of saying that the landscape is not as important as the tiger or the figure. So the brushwork is really kind of choppy and blended down. And all of that was with a plan, but then you just got to see it and see what it tells you to do. So it might be neat to go back to that idea of maybe half pasting it all and making it grayer. But I might not have to do anything. I might just stand back and just, I might say good enough, or maybe I'll say perfect, or maybe I'll even say better than I thought, right? Better than I planned. So I just kind of put it in with just a couple ideas in mind. All right, so this is going to be the fun part. These fur notes are longer than the rest of the head. So relatively speaking, these are going to look shorter because these got longer. And again, I could have done that with a fan brush, and just kind of dragged them in the right direction with wet paint, but that's too random for my taste. Who does that really well is Carol Thompson. She'll use really gnarly brushes to block things in. She'll use brushes to fan it in the right direction. But just because it works great for her, it still doesn't necessarily have to be my preference. I can respect what she does and still want to do it my way. Yeah, you do my stubborn. I'll take that. Do it my way. Even if it's the wrong way, I'll do it my way. Hopefully it's not the wrong way. Okay, so I started to use a little bit too dry of a brush. This needs to be in shadow anyway, so that was a little bit of a mistake. So I need to sell the idea that it's white fur in shadow and then drag it over the edge of these darks. Better. Maybe even a little darker would be even better, but I don't want to start getting into the black value. I want it to look like white fur in shadow. Just kind of dragging it over that edge. I think it could be even bolder, but it's a good value now. So third problem solve, really messed up brush. Nailed it. Boom. This I want to be rougher anyway. I want it to be more focal here and then blast its way out. Again, I might not even work the stripes on the back half of the tiger. The other thing that's going to really pull this together that I'm not going to see for a while is I'm going to drag really heavy whiskers over all this information. So it only has to be kind of believable. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be lost under that texture anyway. So in between the little lines of whiskers, you can get away with a lot. So that's not going to affect anything in here, but I think that's kind of working. So I just want to work some of these edges of this fine stuff in here. I want to agitate the fur over her fingers because they got kind of chopped off by the blocking of the tiger anyway. So might as well sell that idea more that, you know, you really shouldn't be seeing her fingertips if she's sinking it into tiger fur. And again, I'm going to trim down that ear. That's going to help out a lot. I've already trimmed in the cheeks a little bit and a lot on the jawline. And the head is getting more in proportion to the body. And maybe it would be a really good time to stop for a second and work on that eye. Pull it together, or two eyes. Whoa, Thalo. Pull the eyes together and then go back to the fur textures for just a little bit, and then the nose. That Thalo. Evil pigment. Okay, better. Now, I don't need to show very much texture in the shadows. We don't see very well in the dark. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. So it doesn't really make sense to have the full range of values and textures and colors in the shadow. In fact, I think they hurt its ability to be communicated as shadow as opposed to the light. And that's where I'll differ with a lot of like landscape artists who, again, I can really respect their work and still want to do it my way. There you go, Kyle. In saying that, you know, some of them don't want to have the earth tones on their palette. Well, the earth tones are a great way of knocking down the intensity of colors so that if you want your vibrant colors to be in the light and your washed out colors to be in the shadow, you've already got a great shortcut for that. You've got your earth tones and you've got your black. Great way of just saying, okay, rich color here, you know, where the light's shining, maybe near the highlight, maybe a little further away, and then relatively grayer, and that's going to make your colors really pop. And they work together as equal importance, because we've all seen paintings that are like hyper color everywhere, and it just doesn't have any contrast. So none of that color gets appreciated because it's all kind of, there's no system to it. Yeah, it sounds like I'm insulting people, but I'm trying not to. I've got my opinions. All right, fun. All right, so Tiger has a little bit more going on now. I might refine more of it as I go, but I like that it has more vigor, at least. It has more of a system to the light that's consistent with the figure. And it has that feeling of fur texture, even though none of it's really refined. It's not like individual brushstrokes, but it's giving me that feel that, you know, the white fur is over the black stripes, and then the black stripes are over the white fur. And it has that system of the fur flowing around the anatomy of the tiger head. So I'm looking for that harmony. And, you know, it's a good stopping point. I think it's working. Liz. So Liz, you're on YouTube too? All right, I might feather the outside edge. Hello! I might feather the outside edge with some of the green too. But for now, I'm just going to overdo it and then scale it back. So those edges, I think they go out a little too far, but that's okay. I'm doing it on purpose. And there's also no wet paint there, so you can see it kind of doing this weird dragging thing. Again, it's only temporary. All right, eyes. So I'm going to put my gnarly brush down. I'm going to get something I can control better. I'm going to start this with a really rich over the top. This is going to be too much at first, but it's going to be an over the top like green, like brown green. It probably doesn't belong as much in the shadow, so I'm going to add a little gray into it and just give it a little less on this side. Although that doesn't look like less. How about instead of doing less there, we'll do more on the light. Our esteemed graduate is here. She was on YouTube, or not YouTube, Zoom. Guess she jumped ship and went over to the YouTube side. All right, so that stands out crazy right now, but I think it'll make more sense when I get the highlight in place. I want to reestablish this like mascara that they have. I'm going to make the eye a little bit bigger. I know that seems like I'm going against my stated goal of making the head smaller, but making the eye a little artificially big, I think it might look nice. So it's actually even bigger than if I had not shrunken the head. All right, I don't think tiger eyes are the same as kitty cat eyes. I don't know if they get the little slashes. I should probably look that up. But I'm not going to stop my yammering to do that just yet. All right, so now that I established an over-the-top reflected light, or not reflected light, refracted light, and a bright sparkly highlight, now I'm going to develop a darker version of that green to work on the periphery so that that glow is only on that bottom edge. And then I'm going to make a blue highlight a lot weaker on this one. And I'm going to spread it out a little bit more. Maybe I think I can get away with a tiny bit brighter, but I don't want it to be an equal highlight. Eye makeup on the tiger. Yeah. That's a dangerous job if you're if you're applying makeup to tigers. You get one unruly client and you're done for. All right, so if anybody knows if tiger eyes are those like slats like cats, let me know. I just don't know. All right, so now I'm going to go even a little bit more over the top for the refraction. The eyes are looking a little small, and I want to bring a lot of attention to them. Again, just letting the painting speak to me a little bit. All right, so just knowing that the ear is going to get smaller. Gosh, that light is washing it completely out. I think I can make the eyes just a tiny bit bigger. Why is it? I'm still. That's a little bit better. Yeah. All right, I'm going to make the eyes a tiny, tiny bit bigger. I'm going to do it from mostly the top edge. And then I'm going to go back into the markings. I think the markings are doing okay. I mean, I'm not finished, but I'm getting there. And I might add just a few little flicks of very intentional hair values, but again, the randomness got me close enough to where most of it can be left behind. All this is going to get trimmed. All the ear is going to get trimmed. And then the nose is going to get refined. And the mouth, definitely, because the mouth is pretty far behind. But much better. Just bring a little bit more extra attention to the eye, making it a tiny bit bigger. It's a little out of proportion to the rest of the head according to the photo, but I don't know. I'm not answering to the photo I'm creating. So hopefully it just looks artistic and not out of proportion. Fine line. I grabbed the wrong tube. That's why it wasn't going down rich. Good enough. I was putting down these darks thinking, that's not very dark. It's raw umber. It's not black. It's okay. It's doing the job. But I will want to stop and get the right pigment. Yeah. All right. So I will be putting the whiskers on. That's going to change it big time. I might trim down that highlight on the eye. Make it a little less substantial. There's the right pigment. The head proportion is looking much better though. It's like a little tiny trim on all the way around, and that's enough. Here, that's one of the top. All right, the body is going to go fast, so I'm kind of futzing around with the face because it's just it's going to be such a focal point. It's going to be hard not to. It's going to be much harder to get away with things. But the body, I mean, I can just drag kind of loose paint everywhere. So I'm not really that worried about that. That's going to go really fast. Now, if I half paste the background, that's really fast. If I don't really have to work on her jawline. I could, but I want to work on the teeth for sure. And then it's going to be a matter of, well, I'll get some opinions. The rocks in the foreground definitely need attention. Color matching the grasses to cut into the tiger a little bit. Again, I'm going to flick some hair over the fingers. I'm going to put the other strap on. Her strap broke in the sitting, so it really became like Madam X. I'm sure she didn't want to be called Madam X, but a scandalous painting. But all right, so the pattern. I'm just going to mix a version of the fur that, again, can look like the white. 30 sit-ups for you. Message retracted. Wow. Got a little thing going on in the chat. All right, so again, the same idea as before. I'm just gonna solidify the borders between the white fur and the shadows with overlapping flips of paint. But now I have a lot less, and it's a lot less important. In fact, it's intentionally done this way to allow for light over the black fur and then the black fur over the white fur in the direction that it's supposed to go. Well, at least that I can guess at, because my photo is really, really pixelated. It didn't blow up very well. So the direction of the fur is kind of a guess. And again, I'm not so beholden to the photo that if I got it wrong, I'll just deal with all the tiger experts I have to talk to and be happy with it. All respect to tiger experts, of course. All right, cool. So I might just mix up a black that isn't quite so dark for the areas that should be getting a lot of light. So right here, oh gosh, that's dark. I don't want my fur to be pitch black. And so I'm going to lighten it up just a little. I'm going to try to avoid those edges so that they still have that fraying that I worked so long to get. But again, just to take a little bit of the intensity off of the black, I think would be nice. Just another little problem solve. Not terribly necessary, but little nitpick. And so before it wasn't pure black, but it was close. And now it's a little bit lighter where it should be getting light. I'm going to add a lot of fur textures to the ear. Now, the black fur in shadow can be terribly dark, but I still want to be careful because I want my darkest accent to probably be in the purple dress or in the eye. I don't really want it in the shadows of the black stripes. So even accent dark, I don't really want to put in black in the shadow. So having said that, this is practically black. Whoa, and I overdid it. Whoa. Disaster. Ruined. Everyone's going to think I'm a phony. Oh my gosh. Again, further trimming that head. Tiny, tiny bit too big for the body. But within practical reason. Especially if the fur now is suggesting almost like a cub instead of a full-grown tiger. Rude. Shame, for shame. Hang up your hat. Flip burgers somewhere. All right, cool. So I'm gonna call. No, I'm not. I'm gonna put a few little flips of lighter fur over the fingers. Hopefully her fingers will feel like it's just kind of sinking into soft fur. I've already put some flips of black fur. And I don't have to do fingertips. Huh. That's the real reason. Okay, good. So now I'm going to work on the nose and the mouth, and then this thing is really going to pick up speed. The rocks in the foreground, I'm not terribly worried about. I think they'll go pretty fast, which is a terrible thing to say because that means it's going to really go disastrously wrong. But we shall see. The rocks, all I have to do is plain changes of light and shadow. That's why I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. The idea, putting rocks here is going to be very much like the photo, but I think I'll have to add a little bit into the grasses. Not have to, but probably want to. And then then I got to rebalance the rest of the painting. So if I step back and I feel like there's something out of harmony, yeah, address it. There is a good enough, I mean, if I step back and it overall looks good, but if I am really nitpicking, I have that law of diminishing returns. And so how that works is just, you know, adding one little thing extra or a tiny little improvement might not be enough to be enjoyable. And I don't necessarily have to do every little thing. If I stand back and it looks wrong, and if I feel like the first impression is going to pick up on something that's going to hurt the painting, yeah, that's not diminishing returns. That's a necessity. But if it's just like I don't have every grass blade or every bundle of cloud, if I don't put every pore of her skin in, you know, is that really going to improve the painting? And a lot of times the answer is no. And that's when it's like, you know what, I don't want to add that. So that's where I would draw the line. And then maybe somebody like Tony Waichulis would want to put every pore skin in. And so it's very personal. It's however you want to finish the painting. You're going to get less out of each new thing that you're going to add once you get to that point where it's a finished painting. Once it's hit all the squint level minimums, then you can just say, okay, yeah, it's a finished painting, but I could do this one little thing ad nauseum until the end of time. And again, it's how you personally want to finish your painting. So we'll get to there, not soon, I guess, but soonish. Better nose. I might just work on this nostril just a little bit, and then we'll call that for now. Again, that for now is that like I can see little things, but if I come back with a fresh eye and they still bother me, then they might be worth addressing. But if they don't, it's just because I'm being picky in a tiny area, and I'm not considering how it looks for the whole painting. And so to me, taking these small breaks from these little areas when there's other things to do, I think is really nice, a nice best practice. I don't think a lot of people consider that taking a break is important work. You know, it's not lazy, it's not weak. If you just keep plowing ahead, then you're going to be looking at a lot of small areas that might be getting improvements, but it might be taking away from the whole. Especially if I put like hyper detail in some place that grabs the eye too much and takes it away from where I'd rather it go, then that's, you know, that did a disservice to my painting, not an improvement. So I like the nose for now. I'm going to leave that. That went pretty smooth. Let's see. I'm going to get the, I was going to wait on the mouth, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. The mouth was too small before, but now that I've shrunken the rest of the head, I think it's in better shape. And I think I can actually, no heart emotion. Oh, polishing a turd, yeah. Well, when Tony does it, it's not polishing a turd because he's really fantastic at detail. So I'm definitely not saying it as a necessarily a wrong thing to do. This is already way beyond what some artists do. So it's always just personal. Some people do hyper detail and trompe l'oeil and photorealism particularly well, and that is really thrilling for some people. I like loose but tight, which is kind of it sounds like a contradiction, but it's this idea that when you get far enough away from the painting, it looks like a tight painting, but when you get close, it looks like you can see all the brush strokes and things like that. My grandmother was an absolute master at that. Her paintings look tight, but when you get up close, you see the brushwork, you see the looseness, you see these soft edges. I mean, just really mastery over her craft. That's that loose but tight idea. They're not as rendered as a lot of people think. Like I said, I really don't see much detail in this photo reference, and that's going to help temper that idea of taking it too far anyway. A lot of this is a lot of the fur textures are just made up because I just can't see them. But again, that's part of the thrill of this painting. I'm making up a lot. I'm just trying to make things happen. If it's not 100% accurate, I'm sure I'll hear about it from people who know better, but I'm having fun, so they can eat it. Just kidding. I'm always happy to get feedback, but I am having fun just making things up. All right. So I've made the opening of the mouth a lot redder than I see it, and the reason is because I want to draw a distinction between something inherently really dark, like black fur, as opposed to something where you're looking into living matter. Like if you're looking into a nostril opening, you're not seeing something that's inherently dark. You're seeing something living in cast shadow. So you're looking into life. You're looking into blood vessels. You're looking into a little bit of translucency. You don't want to go pure black for like a nostril opening. Well, I'd say the same thing for this mouth. Even though I see that mouth opening as practically black, uh, it's not, and I want to draw that distinction with warmth. And black is completely devoid of warmth as a pigment. I mean, it's not true black because that would be the absence of reflected light, but it is a pigment that's extremely cold. Okay, so for the whiskers, I want to wait a little bit. It's not going to set up very much in the next, whatever, 30, 40 minutes, but that little bit will help, that this paint will set up a little bit and congeal. So again, it's going to be so minimal that it's not going to be much, but every little bit helps. So what I want it to do is just the paint's going to gum up a little bit, and I'm going to put hopefully single brush strokes of the whiskers over. So just single brush strokes. And if it sets up a little bit, that'll be easier than if it doesn't. So better to get to that later, even if it's negligible, just because I don't have to do the whiskers right now. It's not like the last thing to do. So might as well get that tiny, tiny advantage. So I'm going to leave the mouth as good enough for now. I might put a tiny light on the edge of the tooth here. Painting very directly right now. And I don't feel like I have to perfect any one spot. I think this is definitely serviceable, and I might step back and like it even more when I take in the whole painting. So good enough for now. And I'm gonna take my bigger gnarly brush and do some big textures on the body. I think I am gonna use that idea of making the stripes too big and then scale into them with the white. And that's already kind of happening here, but I think I need to zoom out on my. They are probably faking it if they claim to be an expert. I don't know. Tiger experts everywhere, I think. Yeah, you probably wouldn't survive if it's in nature. They're faster than you. They're stronger than you. They weigh more than you. They can leap farther, and they can smell you from a mile away. Yeah, you wouldn't survive a tiger for sure. All right, so again, I'm gonna take the stripes a little too far, because I'm gonna definitely take the grasses into the edges. So I'm gonna make the stripes too big. I'm gonna make I'm not gonna worry about this edge yet. I'm gonna trim this cheek and the edge of the arm in a tiny bit. So I'm not gonna worry about them being too far. That's too dark. It's close, but better. Yeah. Better. All right, so this stripe is too big. I'm always redrawing. So as I'm drawing these stripes, I am considering if they are messing with the proportion too much. So if I have to extend that foot, fine. It's not exactly refined anyway. I might have to. I did reduce the head close to enough. I think I still have to bring the legs down just a tiny bit. And that should be pretty easy. By the time I get here, I'm going to do very minimum. A lot of these markings in here, they're just really lines. I was just using it as like positive shape, negative shape, connecting dots. So now I'll turn it into fur. So this is a little bit of a departure from the other presentations. This isn't an alla prima, but I think it's got a lot to talk about in developing layers, and especially kind of making up parts of the painting that aren't really there. So hopefully it's entertaining enough. I know, like, pulling a painting together in a single sitting, I mean, that really shows a lot in the way of layering and you know, having a plan. This is more of like, yeah, I have a plan, but it was based on all this sort of loose information that I put in place, problem solving as I go. Just thinking of integrating the whole painting in a consistent light source. And I am going to extend that foot a little bit. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing. Shoot. There. Liz, are you simultaneously on YouTube and Zoom? Yeah, the camera is kind of hyper contrasting things, so it washed out a lot of the grays in the face, and it's making all these subtle purples and things look really bright. It's making that mark I put on the hip really bright. I wonder what I can do about that. I wonder if it's just focusing on the wrong spot. But it could also be my screen. I don't know. Who knows? Hopefully it's going to look better in the recording or and on your screens than mine. So like I said, I feel like the legs could... We're not actually seeing the bottom of the canvas. So we're actually losing the amount the frame will lose. But I don't want the feet to be standing on the canvas. So that's kind of how they were before. I think I can bring it down a half an inch. I think that'll really help for lengthening the body. I was hoping that maybe shrinking the head would be enough. I don't think it is. I think it's close. And so I'm going to bring the paw in substantially according to that arm. Is that lined up in the right spot? The eye. Okay. All right. So change of plan. I'm going to leave all this where it is. I'm going to widen this arm. I'm going to leave that paw where it is lengthwise and just move it down a tiny bit. Yeah, that'll be nice. Okay, so again, like I said, I problem solve as I go. I leave things that aren't exactly right but look good, and I problem solve through the rest. This one I didn't want to live with. I was going to move the paw down anyway, but while I'm at it, this wrist was lining up with about middle eye in a plumb line. And I think it would be better to do that than leave it where it is. But on top of that, the bigger arm and bigger paw will support the head better. That, again, my stated goal was to get the head smaller. Well, this does that same thing. It just does it with a strategic goal in mind. And it was only a block in anyway, so I'm not losing anything. Yeah, that's better. So the old version came even lower. The new version went too high and too small. That was contributing to the idea that the head was too small, too big. That the leg got too small. And yeah, I'm gonna like this better. It's gonna look a little rough at first, and that's okay. When you're painting over an old version of the painting, I do this on purpose to where I really kind of oversell with really heavy outlines because I don't want to mistake the old version from the new one. So I wouldn't really recommend painting this heavy for like the block in, because then you'd have all this paint to deal with. But if you've heard me teach long enough, you know that I value clarity over style for the beginning of things. So the beginning of this shift is going to be to clarify the new lines from the old. And the adjustment is going to be pretty easy, I think, to bring the background into those marks, to bring the pause down. It's just a temporary moment back into the harshness of the block and start. It's only temporary. And I don't hesitate to do it, especially when I don't have any hyper detail or fur textures or anything to worry about. There's nothing to protect. So I'm just going to do it. I would still make the right decision to change it even if I did have texture everywhere. I'd just be a little angry about it. With a no, not a whole lot of medium. It's mostly just paint on the brush. So you lost zoom? Oh, it's not plugged in. Maybe I ran out of batteries. Ooh. Wish you would tell me. I mean, not you, Liz. I'm saying I wish the phone would beep or something. Probably because I have the volume off. Dang it. Well. Oh well. I know why too, because I left my case on, and the case is a little bulky. Ugh. Technology. Fun, fun, fun. Yeah, this thing is totally dead. Oh my. Yep, I had my volume off. It didn't beep to tell me that it was out of batteries. Totally on me. I especially have my volume off when I'm getting the kids to bed. Because if they just get a whiff of like technology, they're like, oh, what's that? Like, no, go to bed, kid. All right, again, this paint outside of the head is going to get a lot choppier. And if I have to refine it, I will, but I'm hoping not to have to. Right now, I'm going a little heavy-handed just to cover up my old marks. But then I'll pull it together a tiny bit. Not too much. Not as much as the face. Yeah, Liz, I hope that didn't come across as like you didn't tell me. It was just I was surprised to see that it was not on you at all. I just didn't have it plugged in and it ran out of batteries. Okay, again, in my image that I'm in overcast light, which really kind of hits the whole cat almost equally with barely any shadows. So you can kind of see the shadows, which means that I can get an idea of what the form looks like, but I'm really making up the light to be a lot stronger, to be a little warmer, and with that, I'm gonna just kind of reevaluate it as I go. Just say, is it turning enough? Is it good enough with textures? So like I said, I don't really want to develop the textures as much as the face, but I do want to get the feel that the volume of the arm is turning away from the light and shadow into the chest, and then cast shadow from the tiger head. And if it's a little rough, I think that'll be good. I think that's going to be better than if I kind of communicated it the same way as if the face and the body were equally important. Not even just importance, it's more of to say is like I'd rather the eye to go up here and let this kind of dissolve a little bit, which I can do with a little bit of looseness. So I'm gonna try my best to just kind of make it up as I go, to turn into a different light source, but also to just kind of chop it in there and leave it alone. And then since this arm is coming forward, I better cast a shadow on the dress. I didn't think about that until right now, but the body is behind her figure. The chest and arms are coming forward. And if that doesn't cast a shadow, then it's going to be inconsistent with the light. So again, she is not posing with a tiger. And my vision for how to turn the form wasn't worked out ahead of time. So I'm kind of trying some things and saying, oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. And then fix it. So I brought the arms down a good ½ inch. Still in the process of adjusting. Is your connection spinning? Liger. I saw a liger. I saw a liger in the Great Cat Rescue. Everyone brings it to my attention that was the place for Tiger King. I went there before Tiger King, but still, there was a liger there. It was 900 pounds, and they explained that ligers always have a really tragic ending because they suffer from giganticism. Their bodies keep growing, but their heart doesn't. And so they almost always die of a heart attack. They don't belong in nature because a tiger would never mate with a lion. They'd never see each other. So it's kind of one of those freaks of nature that people think is a cute idea, and then it always leads to a terrible ending for these 900-pound cat. Oh my God, it was so big. But yeah, awful that they do that. Yeah, 900 pound. They had an 800-pound tiger there named Junior, and they would just throw watermelon in the little stream they have, and it would just play with the watermelon. It was the cutest thing. I mean, unless you were in there with it, that wouldn't be too cute. But the tiger playing with the watermelon was really cute. But yeah, I don't recommend swimming with it. All right, so I put in that choppy texture. I'm going to fix this later when I get into the rocks. I am going to put the little pads for the paw in there. I feel like the placement is better now. So the rough version, did its job. And now it's just time to refine it a little bit. I know somebody I'd rather. 900 pounds of meat. Yeah, you usually don't eat predators, though. Never really hear that. I mean, I've heard of like bear on the menu. There was a place in Hamden that served exotic food. It was what was it called? It had a real simple name. It was like Hamden Cafe or something like that. That's not it, but it was something like that. But they had bear on the menu. They had pig's head on the menu. They had so I had the chance to try bear meat, but I didn't. But yeah, usually don't eat the carnivores. They might not provide enough like nutrients. I think they're gone now. But it was a simple name. It was a cafe. It was I think off of 36 and Elm, like right on the main Hamden Drag. I think yeah. All right, so this tiger looks a lot more proportionate now that I dropped this a 1/2 inch and shrunk the head. That was an adjustment gone well, in my opinion. And now I'm just going to loosely refine this because again, I want all the attention to be on the face and on Monica and not on the tiger's body or the landscape. I want those to feel like secondary elements. So if you think about like a movie, you've got your marquee names, you got your star or your two stars at best, like a lead and a supporting actor or something like that. So you got your primary and secondary stuff, and then you got again, like the supporting characters, and then you get your background people, and all of them have important elements to it. It's not a minor thing to have, like a crowd of people back there if you're selling a city, like a city interaction. So like all that's important, but you wouldn't want the crowd members to take too much attention away from the main characters. And so they all have their roles. They all have an importance to play. But again, when I cut in the finishing adjustment of the paws and stuff like that and refine the rest of the body, I'm going to definitely let it take a back seat to the face and Monica's portrait. Okay, and I want to glaze her shadow. I think I do want to work on the nails just a little bit. Kitty's got claws. And just like before, I want to put a little bit of fur in front of the edge here, and then have a value with a sharp edge behind the claw, and then do it again. I think I just need to sell that paw pad just a tiny bit more right here and be done with it. Okay, so this is in front of that. And now I'm going to do the same right here. I'm going to sell that idea of just a quick dark to say that it's different than the rest of the fur. Little hint of the claw. And again, the edges, I'm going to make sure that the fur cuts in front of the claw and the paw pad. And then there's a value behind the claw to help sell it as a plane change. So right here and here. Now that didn't show up, which is just good information. It's not a mistake. It just says that, look, you know, you don't really want to go any brighter. That means go darker around it. And you'll sell the idea that there's another paw pad behind this one. And then now that I saw that, it was just another little problem solved. I can say that, well, if I'm putting that dark there, now this has too much room. So when I adjust the rocks, I'm going to be bringing it in to make a slightly thinner paw. That's going to be a better shape. So then just one little soft edge right here. And I'm going to call it for the paws for now. And possibly get back to it if I have to. We'll see. Again, just live with it for a little bit and just see if it's telling you that it needs more, or am I just obsessing over a tiny area that doesn't need to be much refined? Yeah, so that, I think that's a really helpful thing for me, is to just get back to it, and we'll see if the concerns I have still hold true. And a lot of times they don't. So I'm getting rid of all of this. But much better placement, much better placement. So I'm going to take a shadow color. I need a clean place to work. I'm going to take a deep purple and add a tiny bit of black to it so it's not too rich in color. And I'm going to say that the body and the head are going to cast a shadow into here. I'm going to go over the top and then scale it back, just like all my glazes. Well, not all my glazes, a lot of my glazes. I'm going to let this little fold go a little bit beyond the shadow, and then I'm going to connect the legs. I'm going to anchor the legs to the ground with a cast shadow here. So that heavy outline is going to get gone. I'm going to let it fade a little bit and then put another little dark accent to say that the dress is in here, but it's subtle. I might add a little gray to that. So now my shadow is in there, and I'm going to scale it back and then reevaluate, because sometimes I'll overdo it just a little bit, and sometimes I'll take it from an exaggeration. I liked it better when it was bolder. So that was good. And now, what if a little bit of reflection from the leg got into the dress right here? Now a little reflected light. And we'll just kill this edge. So now Kitty is blocking light onto the dress, and they interact a little bit better. Shocking pink socks on the tiger. I'll consider it. I doubt it, but I'll consider it. I think with that much reflected light there, wouldn't it be cool if I got some hot pink highlights? So we could do a little bit of that. That's a little bit too much. Maybe not that pink and maybe not that bright, but it's worth a conversation. What if the dress had a little bit more sparkle to it? I don't like it. Go on. Worth a try. If I was going to do that, I would put it here on the iliac crest, maybe a little here, because the direction of the light really wouldn't be hitting that strong right here. I think that was the reason that's there is because of skylight hitting the dress. Again, all of it's worth an experiment. That didn't work. No big deal. So I could put some highlights on the dress, but that wasn't great. Whatever. Okay, so again, I don't really want to do much with the body. I do want to resolve that there's some negative spaces for grasses. I do want to put a cast shadow back here. I'm going to put some rocks. I don't have to put rocks, but if I put grasses, I have to put grass blades over the dress and over the paw pads. That might actually be pretty good. Maybe I don't want to put rocks there, especially if I don't want to put rocks back here because I'd have to make it up. So maybe I'll just see what it looks like if I take some choppy grass blades, put some over the paws, put some over the edges of the dress. Then I don't really have to refine that much. Yeah, but that's probably a better way to go, especially if I want to finish today. Look at that pink emoji. Your pink poop. I didn't even know they made pink poop emoji. How about that? Learn something new. I'm not going to say it's valuable information. All right, so I'm going to really blast through this. This is going to be just kind of a hint at darker stripes, a little bit more defined, but not eye-grabbing. So this is just real rough stuff. Like I said before, when I glazed the shadow on the leg, I thought the value worked well, but I didn't like the color. But the glaze did its job. I don't need to keep the glaze. I don't owe anything to the glaze. The glaze just was a nice kind of guide for how dark I want to go. But I can take brushwork into here and make it a little cooler and make it a little bit more substantial with, again, just with the idea that I'm going to keep referring back to that head to make sure that it doesn't compete, that it's definitely a less than. And that's a good thing. When I say less than, that's a good thing because it's just, again, creating background characters, secondary characters, primary characters, things like that. Like I want to be conscious of where I want the eye to go and where I don't want it to go. Well, that's nice, Liz. I've got a couple decades to go to catch up to the experience that I knew her as. Now, she had already started losing her eyesight by the time I started seriously studying, and she was still painting like, I don't know, amazing. Like better than people that could see. Like those portraits on the piano, she could no longer see any color. She had macular degeneration, so the whole middle of her vision was gone. It was like this wavy mess, and they still look great. That figure that I pull out, that pastel, that she had no ability to see color, and the colors are crazy, but it's still a good figure. She couldn't see. That was amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna say that I got a little ways to go before I catch up to her, but you know, again, it's a process. We should get out the old albums of some of her professional portraits. There's one in particular. There's this lady sitting on a couch with an Afghan hound, and it's like the entire painting is amazing, but that dog is spectacular. I think her name was Barbara Love. So if you talk to my grandmother, say Hans said to find that portrait of Barbara Love. Amazing. All right, so I'm really kind of just scrubbing these edges in with a hint of textures, and the idea is to work the edges with those grays. And like I said, those are going to go really fast, and I don't really want much of the eye to go to the back legs or the tail. So I'm hoping that when I step back, it's not too eye grab. And right now, the edges don't quite work, but it's a work in progress. They're getting there. All right, so I'm going to gray this down just a tiny bit, not to be an intense dark. This really junky brush. I mean, it's just perfect. Thing is splayed every which way. It's awesome. But you'll see when I get the lights in here, if it works like the image in my head, it's going to make sense of all of this, and it's going to be really low economy. It's not going to cost me much. I'm going to just kind of blast it on there, leave it, and then step back. It's going to be a lot like that ostrich. All right, so now just to mix the perfect ooh. My phone finally came back online. It was super dead. Ah, yeah. Good. I got your feedback about the Malika, and yeah, you too about the Wi-Fi. I've been having a lot of trouble with internet, both at the school and here, and a lot of people are saying it's like a solar flare that's messing with electronics right now. So I would believe that. Maybe not completely it. It could also be settings, like maybe my Webcam is not set for 1080p. I believe that too. So I'm not going to blame it completely on the sun. Not that that would help. User error, yes. Tech incompetent. No excuses. Chalk that one up for sheer incompetence. Or, as we like to say in the industry, dumbassery, or ignorance, or user error. That works. It's just not insulting enough. There. So this gray is a lot better than that green, and that green was just a placeholder anyway. I'm working into those really kind of roughed in edges from that super gnarly brush. I'm keeping the feel of moving textures of one layer into the next. And then if I'm putting green here, I better put it into the leg. I probably should incorporate some of that into the dress. If the dress has any sort of sheen at all, it'll pick up that green really well. And, you know, you just, after doing this for a while, you don't have to panic about anything. If you see something that's not going well, you just kind of just see it as a step in the process. It's not a finished, it's not ruined. It's not, you know, ruined, as, you know, we like to say. You can just see it and not react. And I found that's the case for almost every demo artist, because I've seen that look of panic in their eyes, and I just didn't recognize it for a long time, because you just think, okay, they problem solved their way through it. It must have just been part of the process. No, not always. You know, you're going to get a lot of artists that just have been there before. They made a mistake and they just didn't tell you, and they just kept moving, and they got it right by the end product, and you're just none the wiser. You just think, oh wow, that was a really neat process, the way they did this and this. No, they just they just know what they're doing. They saw a mistake and they fixed it. So I like to do that a lot. I like to fix problems, but not necessarily right when they happen. I'll live with mistakes for just a little while, and I'll say, okay, what does it need? And usually you'll get a better answer if you keep developing the rest of the painting instead of trying to fix it out of context. Why don't you just leave it for now and get more context? And that's what I do for a lot of this. It's like, that green wasn't working. So what? I'll make it less green when I go into paint, and I'll make the edges better at the same time. And I'll have more information to work with it. And, you know, it's going to be a better painting for just kind of taking my time and not overreacting to something that wasn't working. But believe me, as a student, I would definitely overreact. Do something really crazy to try to fix a problem that I made the mistake in the first place because I didn't have enough information. All right, so the shadow looks better. It might be done. I might actually blend that just to make it less impactful than this. I'm going to do those lighter stripes, and whoa, that's crazy. I'm going to do these lighter stripes, and then I'm going to try that blending, and then I'm going to fix the background in relationship to the ear and the side of the body. I'm going to put grasses in the foreground. I'm going to put her strap on. That might be too Madame Xy. It might just be too on the button. I think that was the strap that broke during the sitting, but then she just ripped it off. So she had one strap. So that's actually pretty accurate to the post, but it's maybe a little too on the button to Madam X. You were there for that, weren't you, Liz? No, I didn't. I can turn Zoom back on. It just my phone was like totally dead, and I didn't bother waiting for it to get battery. So yeah, if you try to log in now, I'll let you in. It probably is the better camera. And that might be a settings issue. It might just be that these, iPhones are better cameras. Certainly a different look. Yeah, from what I can tell is that it's a little crooked, but I think it's a better image.
Recording in progress.
There, it's on. Like I said, I just didn't want to wait for it. Okay, so round this idea out. I'm just going to rough in the white and then a little blending, work on the foreground and the background, and then, ooh, where'd that pink come from? That's interesting. Well, there's Karen's pink socks. Or a bad wound. Yikes. How'd that happen? I gotta start concentrating again. How did I get red on there? Whatever. Just fix it. Wow.
All right, I'm back on Zoom.
There you are. Yeah, I had no idea it cut out, but it makes sense. I didn't have it plugged in.
Okay.
I had it plugged in, but then like the case, I think the case knocked it off. It was just a little bit too thick for the holder. Shouldn't do that. Shouldn't do that again because now the case is off.
Okay.
So now it'll just drop and break my phone, but whatever. All for the good of art, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's still a little rough, but what'll happen is when I blend, I'm gonna go in this direction. That's gonna be the direction of the fur, and that should be in cast shadow. That doesn't make any sense. And then we'll be pretty close. If that doesn't solve the problem, it'll be really close. So I think as just a strategy, I don't really want to develop that foot. I think even if I did, it'd detract. So I think the better course of action is to give up on this idea of putting the tiger on little rocks in the foreground. I think it'd be better just to continue the grasses and then cover these edges. So I'm going to go that route. Wasn't my original idea, so what? And all this can be cast shadow back here anyway. from Monica and the tiger, and then put these grasses in the foreground. Yeah, I think that works. Especially too is if I get richer greens here, that'll push this back relatively. So that might actually be the best way. So let's go ahead and do that blending. I'm going to pull the camera back so you can see the whole painting, and then it'll be foreground and then just some brief problem solves. I'm good with this painting not being fully rendered or 100% accurate, whatever. So that's doing exactly what I wanted to do. I'm just taking one swipe, wiping off some of the excess on my hand, just so it doesn't completely turn it into smear. But it's giving it a subtle direction. It's knocking down edges. And it's creating that direction of the fur all in one shot. I need to do a tiny redraw right there, but I think the rest of it's working. That looks too thick to me. I'm going to fix that too. And so I feel like that went well until I overdid it a tiny bit right in here. Not the end of the world. I'll just put it back. And it looks less than this. It looks like it's smeary, it's weaker. It still has directional work, but it's not fur lines and things like that. And so that was successful. And again, I just took it maybe a swipe or two too far, and live and learn, right? You just get more paint and do it again. Although I don't think I'll have to blend again. I'll just fix it here and leave it because it's already blended. It's already knocked down. It doesn't have these rich, thick paint, and it doesn't have the edge. It doesn't have sharp edges, so it's going to check enough boxes to leave it alone after this just slight repair. Pink stripes, yeah. That was an accident. Not a happy one at that. I was like, where did this come from? Crap.
Hi, Kyle.
That looks drastically different. What the hell?
Yeah, the iPhone looks so much better. But this is a 1080p camera, so it's got to either be a setting or crappy camera that says it's good. So, I don't know. I think you can get these cameras pretty cheap. I might just have to invest a little bit. But yeah, the iPhone looks so much better than YouTube. All right, this leg ought to turn just a little bit. So I think that was just a little misjudgment. I'm going to grab some more of this gray, and I'm going to turn Rumposaurus Rex here, and I'm going to call it for the back edge of the tiger.
That looks so different than YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube looked pretty bad.
It did, but it looks good now.
I mean, it looks... if you didn't have the comparison, you wouldn't know.
Well, no, I was saying that YouTube looks good now. It's not pixelated because you're getting a lot more of your data.
Oh, it does? Okay, that's good. I mean, on my screen, it still looks a little washed out, but it's definitely livable.
Yeah, it still looks like shit, but
but if I can compare it to like the other feed, like when I'm doing the editing and stuff like that, it's like, oh man, I want to use iPhone. But
there is a way to buy old iPhones and link them.
okay. I'm sure they're pretty cheap because the new technology comes out like every other day. What are we on, like iPhone 30 by now?
Oh hell, I don't know.
I think it's 15, and I've got a 12 Pro Max, and I like the camera quality on it. So I imagine be pretty easy to find. I don't know, 12s, maybe even the 13. Probably not 14 yet, but all right. So I'm going to call it on that back hip. Maybe just bring it together a tiny bit, but and I'm going to go blasting away on the grasses. Let's pull the camera back before I do that. All right. Let's see. You got the whole scene there.
Yep.
And let's pull back YouTube as well. All right. So everybody deal with the earthquake for just a second. Oh my gosh, that's 100% glare. How do I manage that?
Wow.
That's 100% glare. Yikes. All right, I can probably tilt the painting forward a bit, but I'm kind of maxed out on my height of the tripod. Not a very good tripod. There, I can go that high. All right, so if I tilt the painting forward, I think it'll help. There it is. Nope, that's not it. That's it. Nope. Still terrible glare. Why is that? Painting's actually tilting forward. Hey, oh well. It'll have to be more about the grasses anyway. All right, we'll keep this video about the tiger, and then maybe I can get splicing shots from the side. Tiger's looking okay though. Now that I pull the camera back, I'm still not seeing any of the grays in here that I'd like to see. But first impression wise, yeah, it's working.
Definitely.
I think the proportion of the head to the body now is looking much better. And I might just raise the hip just a tiny bit. And that'll further make the head smaller. It just looks like this is sunken. And that could be because I worked the background. It could be that I messed up. One or the other. Whatever.
Little mistakes.
Yeah, sure. Definitely not above making mistakes. Yeah, that's better. That's better for the painting too. The trees were coming down, dominating too much space. Cool. So now I just got to complete the stripes out. Doesn't have to be refined. In fact, I don't want it to be. Just don't want it to look sloppy. But I do get the sense that she's blocking the light. Get the sense that the hip is turning, so it's checking all the boxes that I need for, just light and shadow. I like the idea, just like my grandmother, that if you get close to the painting, that the nature of the painting changes. So I kind of like that this is a little choppier, a little looser, a little blended. But now the back registers to about the right spot. It could even go a little higher. In fact, I'm going to go a little higher. Then I'm going to blast away on these grasses. I think it'd be better if this went up at least to here before coming back down. Better. Another little problem solved in the books. Yeah, good. Made the head smaller, made the body not feel like it was sunken. It is slightly shrunken compared to this because of perspective, but not egregiously so. It looked like there was a hip issue. I didn't want it to look like a hurt tiger. Actually, that would be pretty accurate. For that trip to the Great Cat Rescue in Florida, they were saying that if you see a white Bengal tiger, it completely like, what's that?
Don't run because you're screwed anyways.
No, yeah, well, they'll kill you. But no, what they were saying is if you see a white Bengal tiger, you know that it shouldn't be alive. In nature, the mother cat would kill a white Bengal tiger. It's a mutation, and it wouldn't allow it to survive. It can't sneak up on anything, and it would stop the whole rest of the pride of hunting too, because you have this kind of eyesore in the middle of jungle. So they wouldn't survive past birth. They would just be killed by the mother. So what happened is people intervene and they rescue these cubs, but there aren't enough for like a full species. So they're like completely inbred, like egregiously so. They have all kinds of deformities and things like that. Now there is a Siberian tiger is a white tiger, but if you see a white Bengal tiger, they shouldn't exist. But Siberian tigers are totally natural. They're white because they live in the snow. Now, is that completely accurate? I don't know. I trust them, but then again, weren't they trying to kill somebody that had a rival show? So who knows?
That's all hearsay.
That's all. I don't know anything about it. I hear it secondhand from people because I tell that like my experience there, and they're like, "Oh, like Tiger King." It's like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've only heard about this show. Apparently, it's on Netflix, I think.
Yeah, I might want to watch it because I did like my time at Great Cat Rescue, but apparently that lady, what a murderer, I guess.
Was the woman that killed the guy, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the guy was kind of like a TV sensationalist, like exploiting tigers, and she wanted to shut him down. I don't really know. So
I don't think anybody died.
I think the whole thing was built around a murder, wasn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I think they were trying to kill each other.
Okay.
I don't think they did it.
Well,
I could be wrong.
Well, that makes me feel better about it.
Supposedly disappeared, I think.
Oh, really? There must be more to the story then.
Yeah, and then they also had not just tigers, but other really super rare animals that they caught on to apparently.
Well, Great Cat Rescue had all kinds of animals. They had tigers, they had ocelot, they had a snow leopard, they had sand cats. Have you ever heard of them?
Mm-mm.
Sand cats live out in the Middle East, and apparently they're all over the place. They're like bigger than house cats, but they're smaller than like jaguars and pumas and stuff. But
oh wow.
Apparently they're very vicious, but in the Middle East, what they were saying was that they get used for target practice. Like they're out in the, in these, on the edges of the desert and stuff, and people just shoot at them and kill them. And so, yeah, I mean, that's no good.
Liz, you should look one up. I think you would love to paint one.
They're cute.
What is it called? A sand cat?
Sand cat.
Just Google sand cat and go to images, and I guarantee you're going to be like, oh my god.
All right, I'm going to do it right now. I am looking
paint a sand cat.
That would be cool.
And be an advocate for their survival. Aren't they cute?
Yeah.
So, like I said, they're like bigger than a house cat, but they're not like tiger big. I mean, tigers are gigantic, but
They're like a miniature tiger almost.
Wow, they really are interesting looking.
super cute. But it was cool. You couldn't get good. I didn't have the ability to get very good shots. I think it was overcast for one, and for two, with the cages and everything, you really couldn't get a decent shot. There wasn't a whole lot of light in there, but it was a great experience. It was a cool place. Ooh, I like all this red coming through. I'm gonna leave it. Happy accident. And so there you go. The paw's coming in. I'm gonna mix a gray mixture to cut in the cheek. I'm gonna get rid of this outline. Although the outline gives it a lot of force, but I don't know. Also flattens it out. So I'm gonna get rid of the outline. And what was that? That was a lack of concentration. That was disgusting.
Refrain from that.
All right, so we're gonna put some grasses in here, maybe not so neon yellow. Yeah, better. I'm gonna cover the edges of her dress and the paws, especially these back ones. I'm gonna put a dark shadow through here. Then again, it's just a matter of stepping back and seeing what happens, like how the whole painting comes together rather than a collection of small pieces. Because right here, this choppiness works, but what does it look like when I get far enough away to know better?
So have you looked in the mirror to see that?
I could. Yeah, looks good. I even said I was going to do that, didn't I? But yeah, but that's kind of, but I do mean, that's part of what I mean by getting back, right? I can't get too far back in my studio to see it with like just, that 10 feet away or whatever, but I can look right behind me for that mirror. So the edges of the paws, I'm going to put little flicks. So I'm not going to do that yet because I have my big brush out and I'm just chopping away. Just gathering information anyway. I'm doing maybe 3 brush strokes and then slightly mixing the formula for the paint. Lighter one time, darker the next, blues and yellows one time, umbers and black the next. Maybe throw in a flick of orange. Not too much white. I don't want too much white in here. So I'm sticking away from white, but none of it is meant to be, the right grass color. What is that anyway? It's just supposed to be that this is going to be texture and that's going to be not texture. This is going to be rich. That's going to be muted. This is going to be, going to get shadows and that's going to just be plain. So I'm using a lot of different distance elements without doing a whole lot of grass blades. The only grass blades I really need to do are going to be in front of things like paws in the dress. That's it. Everything else can feel like it's a lesser than, and again, that's not saying grass isn't important. It's saying that I'm telling a story of where the viewer should look. Ooh, that was a big brush stroke. And I like the idea that played down areas help support the important areas. Gosh, she's terrible glaring. Is she in glare in the Zoom feed?
No.
Not at all, huh?
No.
It's not radically different in height either. And this painting is pitched forward a tiny bit. So I'm really surprised how much glare is in the YouTube feed.
It's crazy though. In Zoom, like everything looks YouTube, and the tiger's face is just popping. So there's a difference between color, for sure.
Yeah, well, maybe the video will have to be combinations of both. It usually is. It's usually a little bit of both. All right, so I'm going to intentionally leave a lot of this red coming through of my ground. What were you going to say, Kyle?
The zoom has better quality for sure.
Yeah.
Like I can even see the reflection off your brush on that canvas.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. I was looking at this. See, I have a view of the YouTube feed. I don't really have a view of the iPhone. It's in front of my face. It's like right in front of my face. I'm painting a round camera. And for my next trick.
Yeah. Don't rapidly get up too quick. Knock everything over.
That's right. I've done that. I knocked over one of my tripods that like broke. And I was like, come on, man. All right, so here's my cast shadow. And now I just got to worry about layers. So this is a big clunky brush for that. I'm going to mix this gray and I'm going to trim in that cheek. I want to put in her strap. I said all that. I think I want to fix her jawline just a tiny bit, but this is getting pretty close. Again, I want this to be kind of a creative painting and not necessarily it has to be like perfect or refined or anything. So it's checking a lot of boxes for what I want. A made up landscape, a Franken tiger, you know, built from like several different images. My own lighting scheme on the tiger, so I'm making that up too. So just a lot of, you know, creative fun. I like the idea that some of my figure sketches can get used in paintings. I've done a few of them. Some of them I'm still holding on to, but you know, again, just like you do like one figure a week for how many weeks, you get this surplus of paintings. It's like, well, you know, what if I did this with it, or what if I did that? It's a lot of fun. So
what are you doing with the brush there?
I'm just kind of giving it little flicks of paint. But if I use too many, it's going to mix with the white. I'm just trying to create a busyness over the edge because I don't want to develop too many grass blades here. So the idea is to hopefully get away with texture without adding texture everywhere. I don't really want that. I don't want that much attention. I want to keep the nature of the brush stroke a little on the sort of play down side. And I'm just giving it these little flicks. Those grass blades are too big. That didn't work. Yeah, if I went with grass blades that big, then I'd have to really do a lot of texture work in other areas because that would stand out like a sore thumb. So yeah, sometimes it works. Sometimes you got to problem solve. I always look for that. I don't really say, okay, if I do this, it's definitely going to do that. I just have a wait and see approach. Try something. With busy patterns like this, though, what you got to do is have a little bit of patience because busyness is part of what makes it look like what it is. So if you don't have busyness, a lot of times it's just lacking like a few hundred brush strokes. Like you can't judge it too early saying it looks like crap, you know, when you only have like 10. It's like, well, that's not fair because it's not busy yet. And one of its characteristics is busy. So I'm just obscuring this edge with just little flicks of paint. Any one brush stroke that stands out, I might just kind of blend it by, you know, just not refueling the brush stroke. And like I said, if it's not working, what I want to give a try first to is just doing more, not undoing anything, but just keep adding a busyness until it works. That didn't work.
Are you going to use a palette knife?
The problem with palette knife is it might make something too sharp.
Okay.
And I just want it to be general. I don't want it to steal the show. I want the eye to be between these two.
Okay.
And so that's going to be looking in that mirror, standing back and just deciding. I mean, I could try it. It's not in my game plan, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't work. And so if I grab a palette knife, I could start by just doing some scraping, right? Just taking some of the texture out. But I don't want to do too many swipes without swiping off the tip of the palette. So a few grass blades could look like this. I'm mixing up a body of paint. And then you just kind of want to do a single sharp edge. That didn't do anything. That's okay. Get them the next time.
Painting is looking really cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it.
Well, that's fun because this painting would just normally be in a pile of figure paintings. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to add a tiger. You know what? I'm going to put that tiger in a landscape. My original idea was to be like a kind of like a fancy interior, almost like a Palace of Versailles type thing. And so she's sitting there with her little guard cat kitty. And so I thought that could be really cool. It might still be an idea down the line, but I don't know. If I was going to do that, this painting probably wouldn't get done anywhere close to the show, and maybe not at all. It might just be one of those cool ideas that you never do. So I figured, might as well just play. Just put it in a landscape and see what happens. All right, that worked. It's hitting the texture of the canvas and creating little scratchy things. And if I turn the blade like that, then I remove. See how that got too thick? And then I just cut like a red streak into it. So it can remove as well as add. That was a mistake. Wherever you start, that's going to be the thick part. But again, mistakes are fine. Mistakes don't mean anything. It's just a brush stroke away. Mistakes are a big deal in watercolor. That's why Fritz is patently wrong when he says that watercolor is the easiest medium.
Yeah, he lied to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bold-faced lie.
It's like, oh, it's so easy. You'll enjoy it. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you watch him paint, you'll believe him, and then you try it yourself. It's like, you told me a lie.
Yeah, something's wrong here. Definitely use our air.
Ruined. Water up. Put it in the dustbin of history. All right. Big red X. En route to the trash can. Yeah. That's where 90% of my, well, not 90, maybe like 88% of my watercolors went. But you saw Will's protest piece about watercolor, right?
Negative.
No?
No.
So Will did a really tight, like, oil painting of watercolor. So he did a watercolor of apples, and then he painted it in a trompe-l'oeil still life with, his watercolor paints and this kind of swirly background. It's an awesome painting. But it was like, you made me do 4 years of watercolor. Take this.
It's in the book, right?
Yeah, it's an amazing painting. Super creative painting.
He's a true.
Yeah, no. I mean, the best part of his painting isn't his technique, it's his ideas. I know a lot of people that says, "Oh, I like looser paintings." It's like, yeah, but these are meaningful. In fact, he does paint pretty loose for those first couple sittings. And the reason he renders it so much is because he doesn't want you to look at the painting and think it's about the brushwork. He wants you to kind of delve into the meaning of the painting. So he told me that directly, and it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's like you see a lot of paintings that could say more than they're actually saying, but you can't get past the brushwork being so cool. Which I guess isn't a bad thing if you want to be a professional painter, but that's not his goal for the painting. So it makes sense to me.
He's jealous of Liz.
Is it? Nice.
Yeah.
Why would he be jealous of me?
He said he's jealous because you bought the Indian.
Oh,
Indian bust.
you mean Will?
That's a compliment. Nice.
Well, it's a really nice piece.
Yeah, I agree.
I love it.
Well, I need to get back in the studio. I got a lot of ideas.
Yeah, you lazy bum.
I know. Graduation, I was in so much pain.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, sort of here.
Yeah, I had to get out of there ASAP.
I had a terrible headache.
Yeah, you're right there with me then, too. I had a major headache and I didn't eat much.
No, I think you won there. I think you won in the grievance contest.
No. The knees are given. But yeah, feel my pain for sure. Just flat out headache. I was like, God.
All right, so here we are. So the grasses, you know, they're okay. I might revisit them, but it's checking a lot of boxes. I'm covering up the edges. I don't have to refine this paw, which is good. And I think the rocks would have been distracting. So maybe this isn't executed to its fullest, but it's good enough for now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get that strap in. I'm going to get the ear trimmed in with grass, with trees. And,
You're gonna put in the strap?
huh?
You're gonna put in the strap?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What is this strap that you're talking about?
All right, so she's missing a strap. That was actually the strap broke during the sitting.
Oh, okay.
And so it wasn't me trying to do Madame X. It was it's
Okay, I get it now.
I mean, I could have just painted it the way it was before the strap broke, but it was like, oh, we're gonna document this, you know.
Well, why don't you put the strap like hanging off her shoulder down by her bicep and elbow?
Because then that would be like an obvious play on Madame X.
Okay.
I mean, which isn't the end of the world. I mean, it's an homage to Sargent. I can think of worse. He's all right.
Yeah, right. I hate it. I think I'm pretty sure I left my master copy. It's still in the cubby. How much I hate it.
Oh yeah, the one you were. It wasn't going bad. I keep telling you, it's just missing the next thing and the next thing, and then all of a sudden it's going to be there. I mean, that's what's happening here. It's like I had a loose plan. I'm making things up. This was supposed to be an overcast scene, and I was like, oh, shoot, that's a really dark cast shadow. That makes no sense at all. And then I'm making this up. I hated the pattern. I kept cutting in and bringing back out and whatever. Just kind of keep playing with it. And then it got good enough. I'm not going to call it great for being a made-up, you know, landscape, but it does the job. Yeah.
Good job, Liz. Way to direct them.
Oh, it's so nice to hear you, honestly.
I don't want to talk about over here.
I know.
Oh, I like that red.
Happy.
Nice. All right, so now the palette knife got its true mandate. It's carving away paint and leaving more of that red. I think that was missing. I think I overworked to the point of just kind of just simply adding busy until it worked. Now the problem solved is to bring some of that red back. I like it. So now it has the texture. I can really easily add that into here. Now it has the texture, has a little bit of visual. Ooh, that was thanks. I speak too soon. And it has just a little bit of character without being dominant. Yeah, good enough. All right, so now let's get the camera back to see the whole painting. Zoom is pretty close. You see it? Oh, fell. Zoom, you see the whole painting, right?
Yes.
From here to here?
Yes.
All right. YouTube needs a little work.
Just height-wise.
Yikes. Gosh, that glare, I can't get rid of it. Well, most of the camera work is going to be from Zoom. Not from Zoom, but from YouTube. And then it's going to switch to Zoom. And that's just the way it's going to have to be.
Do you have autofocus on?
I don't know. I don't know if I can actually control much.
Yeah, I think that's what was wrong with previous. That's not looking bad.
Well, right now I'm standing in front of it. So thank you. I sound like my brother there. Oh gosh, I gotta wash my.
It definitely is autofocus on.
I gotta retract that statement. That was doofus all over it.
Is autofocus good or bad, Kyle?
Autofocus is bad.
Okay.
That's why I believe that's why it was getting really bad with YouTube with the pixelization, because his hand kept getting in frame and it kept trying to readjust.
Kept trying to focus on my hand.
Yeah.
All right, that makes a lot of sense.
How do you turn it off?
It's in the settings.
Much better. Smaller ear, smaller cheek. All right, so I'll let you have an influence, Liz. Do you want a version of the strap in there? We could go full Madame X and have it draped over her shoulder. Madame Gautreaux.
Well, I think you should do what you want, but I kind of like it without the strap.
Well, that just looks like it's missing. There's one strap on one side. I could make it a strapless dress and just get rid of the other strap. That could be a possibility. Right now, it just looks kind of weird. Like, why is there one strap and not the other? It's not like it's dangling. It's just missing.
Well, yeah, that's true. I guess it's because I know the story.
Yeah, that the strap broke during the sitting.
Yeah.
And we all made the Madame X reference. It's Madame X.
It was funny. I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably not for her. She didn't seem all that upset, but still.
She's really a nice person.
Yeah, I like Monica. I'm gonna brighten some of the purple. I don't know. What time is it? Oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock. How did that happen? All right.
It's only 12:47. You know.
That big of a deal. Rounding up doesn't count. No, actually, it's not 1 o'clock.
I mean, I'm not going to bed for another 5 hours. We're good. Let's keep going.
I gotta wake up with my kids tomorrow.
Hey, Carl, when are you going to be back in again?
Hell,
I need some light.
Your birthday's coming up.
No, it's not.
No,
You don't.
Okay, well.
I should, 29th, I'm going to go in and see the doctor to be cleared to wait on that.
29th of May?
This month, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Kyle.
I'd say no, another month, but
Liz got me on my birthday, which I normally can avoid because it's like the end of August and nobody's around. But she got me anyway.
Mine's easy. I just don't show up. I just disappear.
Yeah, but we still can send you messages.
No, because I don't even turn on my phone.
We don't care.
Messenger pigeon. She's gonna make a note and wrap it around a rock and throw it through your window.
Hans will tell me where you live, and then he'll be the one responsible.
Yeah, I can send the cops his way. I think I live with a cop.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, I'd only be the accomplice. I wouldn't. I would think that'd be a slightly lighter sentence. Yeah, kind of like the better of that. But I could have either removed this strap or added this one. I could have had it draped over the shoulder.
Oh wow, you added it on so fast.
Well, yeah, it's just a strap.
I know, but that would take me hours.
It would not, Liz.
It would.
It would.
It's just like signing, when you sign your piece.
No, that signing would take me hours. Putting a.
I gave up already. I used that silver inked pen, the silver inked gel pen.
I mean, that's not a bad thing to do. I like it. I like it to be, the same materials I use for the painting. I don't know why I don't hold it to the same standard for like watercolor. I'll sign with a gel pen. But I don't know. Teach their.
I want a cool signature, but I don't have one.
Jorge Gonzalez for a while was putting a wax seal on his paintings, but they would fall off. So I would say that was not a good one to do. And as much as I like John Still's paintings, for a while there he was putting like the entire bottom corner of his painting with these huge letters that say J. Sills, but it like dominated the painting. So it's like, that was an experiment that he liked for a while, and then he changed it. And it doesn't detract from the painting as much.
I have an idea about what to do with mine. I kind of want to make it into a stamp.
Oh yeah.
Just do an arc with it, so I just arc right into a oil paint, and then just glide it right onto the canvas. Just roll it, and then it's done.
Really, I'd like to see that.
That way, it's my own signature. It's just
mass produced. I mean, you look at the old masters signatures; they're amazing. It's like these scrolly letters that are super fine. It's like, how did you do that? But I don't know.
Especially with those really long names.
Yeah, like Dahim. If you look his up, it's like 4 names in this scrolly lettering. Or Van Heysem, same deal, like these scrolly letters. Although you'd assume that with him. He cheated. I don't know how, but he did.
Somewhere he cheated.
That's like it's like the Hackney books. Like, well, Franz Hals must have used a camera obscura because Van Gogh couldn't paint a foreshortened hand holding a skull. It's like, what? Seriously? That's your logic? It's seriously, I'm not making that one up. That's in the book. It's like, the proof is that Van Gogh tried to do this hand with a foreshortened hand holding a skull. And you see how it's a little clunky and inaccurate. So therefore, Franz Hals must have used a camera obscura. It's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever read in my life. Even if it were true, that'd be a terrible leap of intuition. I'm going to get destroyed by my kids in the morning. I've got to go to bed. They're going to have this thing called energy. And I'm going to have this thing called exhaustion. I've been sleeping like crap lately, so it's just going to add to it. All right. I'm calling it.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Yep, Burr. Hope you enjoyed it. But I had no idea I had a frame for this. This is going to be fun. I'm going to put it in the show.
Nice.
I was going to.
Tail too thick?
Probably. It's pretty thick in the.
Just right at the ass end.
Well, let's de-ass it. All right. Blah. Not that and not that. Wanted to fade in modeling, so I left it a little on the rough side, but if that's making it big, that doesn't work. So I like having feedback like that.
Yeah, it's looking better already.
Yeah. Didn't take much. I like all that red in here, so I'm gonna leave it. It doesn't belong, but whatever. It'll be a Rubens tail. Have you ever seen like the Rubens paintings? Like you'll see this arm that's like the reflected light is pure cadmium red. So well, where did that red come from? But
Don't ask questions.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It looks great. Shut up. It's Rubens. Shut your mouth. All right, cool. I don't know. I might live with the painting for a bit, put it in the show. I'm going to do a few little minis and ala primas before go time. And maybe I'll work on it a tiny bit before then. But for now, show what ready. And I'm going to leave it.
So, did you ever do that sketch of the frame and order the monster plate?
I have most of the sketch done. And we have a full block of monster clay. I guess I just need a second one.
Yeah, you need a second one for sure. Frame that you want.
Yeah. So yeah, it'll get done. That sucks. A mall stick slip, amongst other excuses. Gone. Wow, that's a big signature. What was I thinking? I hate signing paintings.
Well, you got 12 more reminders until you're done.
Yeah, I'll get there at like maybe 2, just in case.
Yeah.
All right, good night, guys.
Good night,
You're
Liz.
not allowed to go yet
Why?
because he's not done yet.
Because yeah, I've got 6 more letters.
You can't go yet, Liz.
He has to go.
Yeah, he's got to go, but you don't have to go yet.
He has
Not done. Why are you always trying to leave early? Slacker.
Anyway, so hey, there's still 2 more on YouTube. Cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
It's just the chat stopped, so I didn't know.
I'm pretty sure you lost Malika.
Well, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had no clue.
She's a slacker too.
I was in kind of painting tunnel vision.
They were having a lively conversation. It was funny.
So,
She wanted one of the tiger claw paws, or tiger claw, to be pink for Karen.
I don't know. Could be like it mauled something, as tigers do. Have some big blood stains on. Like, don't mess with this chick. She's got a guard tiger. That's
Do you
what.
have any thought to that one sculpture request?
I mean, yeah, I'll do it. I'll just, it's got to be after the show, of course.
Yeah.
I'll start brainstorming that, finding images, and make an armature. Probably do a little preliminary sketch, like a mini version, like a monster clay or super sculpty, something that can stand without an armature.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, see what happens. Get it approved by him, and then put it all together.
Oh, I tell you, he's pure chill. So you just got to give him a price so you can start saving them.
Yeah, I'll keep it on the low end, especially because I haven't done sculpture in a while.
Yeah, he's super excited. He already told his wife.
Oh, so now I got to do it. I was going to anyway.
General Lee.
Oh, cool.
Apparently he's related to him. So he asked him.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it because that's I got too much other shit on my plate. Plus, I don't want to sculpt General Lee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Lee was a honorable soldier. It was just like I don't think he was actually an advocate against slaves. He was a dutiful general.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, all the vitriol against the Civil War was the slavery issue, but Lee didn't own slaves. He actively argued against them. But he was fighting on behalf of the states. It was a bigger cause than that. It was, still it doesn't make the issue any softer, right? That issue was definitely something that needed to be resolved in the United States, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, the man himself isn't a symbol of slavery.